Speedway. This is practice for the Indianapolis 500 on the IMS Radio Network.
Welcome to the world's greatest race course. By the time this day is done, the field will be set for the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. 1 week from today, Mark Jane's happy to be joined by Nick Yeoman and our driver analyst this weekend, four-time Indianapolis 500 starter Zach Veach. A full stable of pit reporters for you today, Drake York, Alex Young, and Rich Nye. And what an unbelievable day it was yesterday. We've got some pretty noteworthy drivers battling it out for that final spot in that last row shootout. Some great stories among the Fast 12. And while they're always
of the world. We had a full day of qualifying yesterday, and it was a thriller. And it started with a bang for Colton Herter. He, thankfully, was okay. The team did an incredible...
the first portion of the NTT INDYCAR Series session. He gets to the month of May, and he wins the Sanzio Grand Prix. And Zach, almost immediately, he starts saying, yeah, but he hasn't won on an oval yet. I think he's doing everything he can to quiet the critics by being the fast qualifier yet.
Well, that's the thing. You just have to show up, and that's one thing that he's been doing all year long. And I don't think momentum is against him in any way possible here. So I think he's one to watch out. Another car that I think has been insanely fast this weekend is the number 60 of Felix Rosenquist. He's had that outright speed, just the consistency. There's a little bit of fall off yesterday. So I think conditions-wise, today will be a little easier day for the drivers. We can kind of see the flags down towards turn 4. They're kind of wavering a little bit. They have some sag to them, whereas yesterday, some of those wind gusts were up to 30 miles an hour. And let me tell you, in these race cars, it's practically an airplane on the ground. So as a driver, when you're trimmed out, meaning that you don't have a lot of downforce on the car, you feel 5 or 10 miles an hour. So gusts up to 25 or 30, it's moving you all over the racetrack.
Nick Yeoman, not only is the order not set, the field is not set. There are still 3 spots yet to be assigned, but the intrigue comes by the fact that there are 4 drivers that are vying for those 3 spots.
And this is why, so often during the off-season, fans are tracking this throughout January and February and March once the season rolls around to make sure, hey, we want to have more than 33 entries so we get this type of drama. But you mentioned it, last row shootout later today, an opportunity for 4 drivers to battle for 3 spots. You've got 2 teammates for Dale Coyne Racing. That team has been struggling with Rinus VeeKay and the rookie Jacob Abel. Marco Andretti's a bit of a surprise to be in it as well. He came razor close to knocking out Graham Rahal and putting Rahal into this last row shootout. And then the other one, Mark, was one of the stories of the day yesterday. Marcus Armstrong had a thunderous crash in turn number 1 where he most certainly had the cobwebs cleaned out. That team, Meyer Shank Racing, did an incredible job putting together a backup car just so he could get back out there. And then obviously the driver was able to find the confidence to get back behind the wheel as well. We'll see what they can do as they'll join Marcus Armstrong along with, again, Marco Andretti, Jacob Abel, and Rinus VeeKay battling for that final row for the Indianapolis 500.
One of my mentors and dear friends, legendary motorsports broadcaster, the late Gary Lee, one of the phrases he used always to describe a day like this was Chamber of Commerce weather, and it is certainly that. And Alex Wolf, you can give us the specifics.
Mark, a good afternoon to you and everybody listening. I got to say, one of the honors of this weekend being up on the Turn 2 suites during qualifying, a place where for several years Gary Lee stood and called the action on this radio network in Turn 2. And this indeed is that Chamber of Commerce weather. Sunshine, blue skies. You got to look really hard to see a cloud in the sky. Ambient temperature is 70. Track temperature is 115. That's the average around the track. Firestone with the sensors in each of the 4 corners, 125 in turn 1, 101 in turn 2, turn 3 at 114 degrees, 120 in turn 4. But most importantly, like Zach Veach talked about, not a lot of wind to speak of compared to the diabolical conditions we had the last couple of days as we get set for what should be an exciting day of qualifying here at the Speedway.
Yeah, practice session running for a couple of hours here from 1 until 3 o'clock Eastern. Then we'll get a 1-hour break, and then we'll start to set the field for the 109th Indianapolis 500-mile race. Let's welcome in Drake York for the first time today.
Thank you, and good afternoon to you as well, Mark. I'm currently standing in the 83 Prema pit of Robert Schwartzman, and it is noticeably absent. They have elected to keep that car back in Gasoline Alley for all of this early afternoon practice session headed into the Fast 12, and you and Zach talked about it right off the top. One of the great surprises, really, of the month of May is Prema and Robert Schwartzman. And, of course, yesterday he was 6th fastest with that run early in the day, put it in the barn for the rest of the afternoon. And I talked to Dave Arnold, his crew chief, earlier this morning. He said, look, we felt like we would have a good shot on Thursday, and then we rattled off a lot of good laps on Fast Friday, and it started to be real. And he told me one of the most gratifying parts of this month of May so far was when they were bringing the Tugger back to the middle of pit lane here at the Speedway, and watching Robert go around on the racetrack was watching him lay down all 4 of those laps. Picture perfect for Robert Schwartzman and Prema Racing, which, reminder, this is their very first attempt at the Indianapolis 500-mile race, and so far they have a good chance of maybe making the Fast 6, and if things go well, could be sitting on the pole by the end of the day.
Well, one of the busiest crews yesterday, if not the busiest, along with Marcus Armstrong, was the crew of Colton Herta. And not only did they get him back out, but they got him in the show. Not at all, Rich Nye, where they intended to start, but the bottom line is they were safely in when the gun went off at 5:50 Eastern yesterday.
And Colton Herta was so quick to point out the work of his crew and how an incredible job they did yesterday. I'm joined by Nick Allen, who's the crew chief on the number 26 Honda of Colton Herta, and he's already been taking a lot of heat back here for getting a little publicity, but your guys really did a tremendous job yesterday. Let's start with 12:05. Colton hits the wall. Once you know he's okay, how quick does your crew go to work?
That was the main thing, just making sure that Colton was okay, but we instantly knew that we had to get back and start playing the car. It's a testament to the people in this garage, what level they are, and at one point, I don't even know how many people were working on it, so it's they did a great job. Colton's a lunatic. He just kept his foot in it for 4 laps for an install lap, and yeah, it's truly amazing to see all these people come together and pull something off like that, so it's great.
The backup car, how much of a car was that when you started?
I mean, we put a decent amount of time at the shop into it. It wasn't complete by any means, but we had a decent amount done, so it wasn't a huge effort to get that to where it needed to be, but you know, basically from the engine back was all different, so it was big.
And the time frame ended up being well less than 5 hours, maybe 4 hours, 4.5 hours, 4:45 at best, by the time that car was sitting out on pit lane ready to roll. Just how much time should that normally take?
It all depends on how many people you have and the type of people you have doing it. At that point, you don't even realize what time is or how long it's taking. You just, everything kind of goes right and it gets done. So, you know, if it was just 4 guys working on it during the day, it'd take, 7-8 hours probably. But, we had 15 guys, 20 guys working on the thing. So, yeah, it goes quick.
And Nick, how concerned are you as a crew chief when you send a car out there that hasn't turned a lap and it's going to go qualify?
It's terrifying. Yeah, that wasn't exactly how we intended, but just because of time, that's what happened. And I guess there's a little bit of there's a lot of confidence, but it's still gut wrenching at the same time. I wasn't in the best frame of mind when we were out there, so it worked out. It's the fastest install lap we've done in a while, so yeah, it was good.
Well, you did a terrific job. I know all your crew teammates here are giving you a hard time. You're supposed to work in the background and not get all this attention, but it's well-deserved attention today, and maybe you guys can relax a little bit today since you don't have to run.
That's the hope. Hopefully we'll get out of here soon, and hopefully 2 or 3 of them don't have bruised shoulders. So.
Thanks. That's Nick Allen, the crew chief on the number 26 of Colton Herta, who wrecked 12:05 on Saturday and qualified about 4:50.
It's a story worth telling, that's for sure. Well done, Rich Nye. Thank you very much. Let's go to Drake.
Santino Ferrucci down here in the AJ Foyt Racing Pit. Of course, you're not qualifying today, but your teammate David Malukas is. And in the last 2 years, you've been in the Fast 6. This is David's first appearance in the Fast 12 period. So what are you able to help your teammate out with today with all your experience here at the Speedway in this particular situation?
Oh, man, he's got it. I'm just here for support of the team, man. He's doing a hell of a job. We had a great run going yesterday. just kind of cussed the wind in two, and honestly, that's kind of what kept us from being in here as well. But, you know, AJ Foy Racing, our whole team, our Homestar Troops car was awesome. You know, I think David will be great. James up on the stands, freaking mega. So, said we'll see how many Chevy Powers we can get up into the Fast Six today. And, yeah, like I said, I'm here for team support. So they don't need my help. They know what they're doing.
As a driver going into the race, what can you learn here on the stand and qualifying? Obviously, it's two totally different things, but is there anything you can take away from this program and apply to your program here over the next week or so?
Yeah, obviously seeing the balance shift from today, from yesterday, just at the wind, understanding what parts of the track are going to be technical, just trying to stay up on it for tomorrow. You know, I still need to try and find a good race car for myself, and watching today and being up and listening to the debrief, which is what I was doing, is just going to help me set my car up for the direction I want to go. I mean, we're 3 days behind on setup stuff, so anything I can do to get up ahead is worth it.
All right, we'll let you get back to learning. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Santino Ferrucci, guys.
7 cars have gone out and turned laps, a couple of with install laps, Felix Rosenquist and Christian Lundgaard. So let's go back to that Herculean effort by Colton Herta's team and Zach Veach. Great to see those guys behind the scenes get a little publicity for what they do. That is just a reminder of, while certainly a lot is in the hands of you guys as drivers, it is still very much a team sport, and that was on full display yesterday.
Oh, absolutely. You know, that's one thing that I tried to always do, especially is those guys I don't feel like ever get enough credit, because how much time they spend on the road away from their families and how much work that they put in. You know, who we heard talking was Nick Allen. He's Colton's crew chief. He was my crew chief when I was driving the 26. He's one of those guys that I've had the ability to know him for about 15 years now, and it's just, he's one of the best, you know, in those tough times when everyone has to come together to get something done. He's definitely the guy you want steering the ship. So I'm so happy that he got some of the recognition that he definitely deserves.
And, you know, when we had an opportunity to get camera shots back there from our multi-screen monitor, I mean, this is one of those areas in which multi-car teams are a benefit, because, as you heard him say at one point, he couldn't count the number of guys that they had working on the car.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we saw that with Ganassi as well. You know, when you have this big group, you're not going to turn down hands. You know, hands get these cars back together, and they get them back together pretty quick. So that's the most important thing. It's all hands on deck. It takes people kind of knowing what areas of the car that they're good at. You know, for our listeners that might not know, these mechanics are usually separated by what end of the car that they work on, or what they are typically taking care of. So Nick Allen, as we heard, he's the crew chief. He's kind of in charge of the entire crew and that surrounds that race car. But we have guys that are front-end mechanics, which sounds like what it sounds like. They take care of the front end of the race car. We got rear-end mechanics that are taking care of the gearbox and the back of the car. So everyone has their place on the team. They know what they can do. And in these moments of crisis like that, it really gets the job done.
I really appreciated the human side of that, too, where Nick said, hey, even I wasn't in the right headspace after that. I mean, certainly everything, you know, the attention turns to Colton, who has flipped upside down twice down in turns 1 and 2, and you wonder, how does the driver get back behind the wheel after going through that? But the amount of pressure that's on these crews, I mean, this is the Indianapolis 500. They put so much effort into this race weekend. To hear that those crew members are going through those same types of mental challenges of, hey, we got to put a good enough car underneath our driver, not just to make the show, but to have him confident enough to go out there and push it to the limits. And as Nick talked about, fastest installation lap that Colton will probably ever do.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing. People always make a big deal about what it takes to get back in this car and go out there and do what Colton does. And, you know, there is a moment of, okay, I got to go do this again. But for us, it's the only way we can right that wrong. So, you know, we unfortunately make a mistake that required so many people to go through the ringer trying to get a race car put back together, and they're doing it all for us and our team. So for us to have a car that's capable again, that's the only way we can reward them for that work. So it kind of makes our job easy when that visor goes down. We know the task at hand. The last thing you want to do, though, is after they've just busted their butts for 4 hours to give you another chance to go do it again, you have to deliver that car. You can't put it in the fence again.
We might want to make mention that during this practice session, expect to see the top 12 and the last chance candidates. Those are the ones that you'll see out running during this 2-hour session. And, you know, for the rest of the field, I know Connor Daly went out, made a valiant effort in the closing seconds to get himself into the round of 12. Came up short, 13th. But the good news is they can now take that qualifying setup off of that car and get it all set in race trim and get it ready to go for practice tomorrow.
Well, that's the thing now. You know, it's all about just thinking about race day. You know, Connor said in the interview yesterday that, you know, next Sunday pays a lot more. So that's the one that you want to capitalize on. I know he would have loved to be in the Fast 12, and that effort that he put in, he should have been there. And he was honest about it. He made a small mistake with the weight jacker on that last lap. You know, his first 3 were within a couple of tenths of a mile an hour. That final lap dropped off about a half a mile an hour, and that was all just from a small mistake of not getting your weight jacker back to where it needed to be for turn 1. And that's so easy to do. You know, I sympathize with that because not only do you have a lot you got to manage in the race car when you're putting those 4 laps together, but if you know you're on that bubble, you're looking at your dash every time you cross the yard of bricks, you know you're tracking to be in that Fast 12, that excitement kind of builds up and that stress builds up, and it almost becomes easier to make a mistake when you know that you're just close enough to get in it.
Mark, handful of guys who I imagine today, while they're going to have relaxing Sundays, not having to go out and qualify again, probably feeling like they should. You mentioned Connor Daly and how close he got. I think all three Ed Carpenter racing drivers probably feel like they could have gotten a little bit more. As we got is that a crash? That's a crash. Scott McLaughlin off of turn number 2 has destroyed the left side of that Pennzoil Chevrolet.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah, I was really hoping that all the last couple of days we've been getting replays on the crashes from the previous days, and I've been having to stop myself making sure it wasn't live. I was really hoping this was another one because that's the last thing that they were expecting today.
That is.
We see him pulling the head pad out, though, so
yeah,
it looks like Scott's
news.
okay. It's just, I'm sure the frustration there is immense.
And again, the AMR IndyCar safety crew is already on the scene, and yeah, we get a look at the in-car camera shot, and Scott McLaughlin is quickly extricating himself from the car, and for all intents and purposes, he looks to be okay, but it looks like he did get his bell rung just a little bit. Either that, or he has already begun the process of beating himself up over what's happened to that race car.
Yeah, he's taking those gloves off. It was kind of a hand. Yeah, now he puts the hands on the hips. That's a look of dejection, Zach. And he knows. He yesterday, second fastest driver, 4-lap average at 233 miles per hour. He was going to be a threat for the pole, and now all of this in jeopardy for the driver for Team Penske.
Yeah, for all the guys out of the Penske stable, I think he was the one I had my money on because he looked so controlled yesterday, even in those tough conditions. And, he's standing there with frustration. It looks like the left side of the car got destroyed when he got to the wall, so we'll wait for a replay. But he must have got loose because that's kind of what we've been seeing happen is these guys are doing that complete 180 spin. The left side's making contact, and it looked like it got him out of 2. We got the replay going now. Yep. Just lost it coming out of 2. And it went so quick, which is odd. I think that's the fastest snap we've seen out of the last 2 days.
And again, I just continue to be amazed at what is causing these cars to get sideways in the air a little bit. Now, fortunately, again, because of wicker bills, they're not launching up into the catch fence, but they are kind of arcing over and then settling back down on the racetrack.
Unfortunately, I know the one thing that's not helping with this is we've heard the drivers talk about that extra weight in the rear of the car, 100 to 130 pounds. Yeah, we see him. He gets in, and he's just losing the rear. I mean, that's a 4-wheel drift into a snap and just a 180 spin as he collects the outside of turn 2 ball. So
you can't distinguish anything like a wrong entry or got too low at the apex?
No, it looks fine. It just looks like he lost the car. And, and that's the name of the game right now, because to get these cars fast around here, you got them on such a fine edge of being out of control that, unfortunately, when they do snap, they snap in a big way, and there's not much you can do. But, yes, I think some of that's just that extra weight back there, because it's just a longer lever if you think about it, and it makes that moment so much slower but harder to regain control of. So these guys are having a lot to kind of fight.
I will say this. I'm surprised that basically all of his body language when he got out of the race car was simply tied to frustration and aggravation, Zach, because that was a major league lick against that wall.
Yeah, well, I mean it's
that's
easy.
A hard hit.
It's definitely a hard hit, but it's easy to be mad at yourself. I mean, he's not even stopped, and you see the gloves on the helmet in a sense of, what did I just do? Because you just know your day's over now. You know, you had a shot to go for the pole, and unfortunately, it's
it'll be
something you're
interesting
going
to
to watch.
see how that unfolds because, I mean, you're looking at 1:20 Eastern time now, and we may get more from that from Kyle Moyer.
Yeah, we're walking back to Gasoline Alley with Kyle Moyer, and Kyle, obviously not what you wanted to see in this practice session. Was there anything that you guys deduced from the stand that caused that accident for Scott?
Nah, we just got a little bit, went in with a push and got loose there. Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, his car was pretty good, but now it's a crash car, so we'll be fine. We'll start 12th and do something from there.
So you said you're going to start 12th. Are you guys just going to completely abandon the effort to qualify for the pole now?
Well, there's no way fixing that car and to get a backup car ready to go, motor in it and all that kind of stuff. I just don't see that in the next hour and a half to be able to do that.
All right, we'll let Kyle Moyer head back to Gasoline Alley. Heartbreak for the team that won the pole here last year.
That's an awesome get by Drake York to get Kyle Moyer, and thanks to Kyle for that access, because it would have been understandable for Kyle just to wave him off and keep on walking. But, so, and again, I guess if there is a silver lining to be deduced from all of this, it's the fact that he will start no worse than 12.
Well, that's what, we were kind of talking about yesterday. As a driver, when I was first coming here, it was Garrett Mother said he always had a quote every year at the Indy 500 that always stuck with me, and it's, your one job is to deliver the car to qualifying. Deliver the car to Saturday, meaning we don't hurt it, we don't do anything, we don't have a silly crash in practice that makes us go to the backup car, because that car has been prepared for the last 6 months for that first day of qualifying. If you're lucky enough to get into today, where you're in that shootout for the Fast 12 to the Fast 6, if you're going to risk the thing to go for the pole, then by all means, go for it. It's just he won't really want to say that you risked it all in practice. That's the only tough thing.
Rich Nye.
David Malukas ran a few laps. He'll be part of the Fast 12 for the pole. What did you try to accomplish this afternoon? What are you looking for? And are you happy with the car and that's why you parked it?
Yeah, I mean, going into today, this is just practice. We're not going to risk anything before qualifying. That's the big one. That's when we'll take the risk. So we put a bunch of downforce in it and just try different setup ideas and different strategies from a driving perspective when it comes to hybrid and the tools. So we're pretty happy with the information we got. So we're going to head back and kind of take a look at everything we've collected out of the 3 quali runs we've done in the past 2 days and figure out what's going to be the best strategy going into the Fast 12 later today.
So you were 7th yesterday. Do you think you can make an honest shot for the pole and at least get in the Fast 6?
I mean, yeah, pole's going to be all or nothing for sure to get to that. But I think Fast 6, it's for sure in the window. We're going to have to be 110%. Everything's going to have to go right, like the past few runs we've done. I think for today it's going to be a bit easier. I think, only being 12 cars, it's going to be more similar conditions between everybody. So we have a good opportunity. It's not going to be easy. It's never easy, and we have to give it our all.
And thankfully, Scott McLaughlin is okay. But, I mean, there was a pole contender for sure who's not in the mix now.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. They can get that car back out there.
His crew chief just said no, they're just so they're not going to compete in the Fast 12.
Well, I mean, that's one less contender for us. I mean, that's a good one. That submarine car was looking pretty fast yesterday, so that's another thing that I guess a plus that we can take. But from our side, it changes nothing.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, good stuff with David Malukas, and finds out that there's one less contender that he has to vie for position for. So now you're looking at, for the rest of the field, no worse than 11th. And Zach Veach, we're getting a look at some work being done on the racetrack because pretty good gouge was dug out there in the crash to Scott.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like the exit at 2. I mean, it looks like a 2 or maybe a 2-inch divot into the track that we see there. They're kind of beating it with a hammer right now, trying to get it to lay flat. So we might be down a little bit for a track repair because, I mean, that does look pretty big. And if that was when he went up in the air and came down, that might be as we get closer to the back straightaway.
Well, and the exit of turn 2 is where guys are hanging it out. The last thing you want. I mean, there are enough variables at work in turn number 2 for these drivers in qualifying runs. The last thing you want is a damaged or torn up racetrack.
Well, it goes back to the wind is the same direction as yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's going to be pushing you out at 2. And man, there's so many times that you get a good qualifying run here and you just lose a little bit of the front end off of 2. The thing's pushing up the track, and as a driver, you're kind of tucking your right elbow into the cockpit as if it's making the car skinnier because you come out of there so close to the wall that it's that moment of, I'm keeping my foot in it. I think I'm clear. but it's going to be really close.
A lot of folks watching that that live in central Indiana wonder why city and county streets can't be fixed that fast.
We got plenty of those around here.
Got on that pretty quick, didn't they?
I don't like hitting those at 25. I'm not sure I'd like hitting them at 225 either.
Yeah, great work. So Scott McLaughlin, bad news for him. He had turned a lap at 233.553. Dixon, Award, Rosenquist, and Pillow, the top 5. Lundgaard, Newgarden, David Malukas of the 8 cars that have gone out and turned laps. And again, they'll check the safer barrier, and they'll make repairs to the track surface and hopefully get folks back out.
And that's the worst thing about it, isn't it? He was P1 in this practice session already before he hit the wall. So, that's probably one of the top contenders for the pole today that's already out of it. Man, we're just looking at it. Vicious crash. I think that gouge in the track probably happened, from his right rear coming back down to the surface. So that hole does look like it's further down out of turn 2, so it's on the straightaway. So the nice thing about that, yes, we see him. They're putting some asphalt in it now as they're patching it. So I don't think that's going to be anything that really affects the day because you're well and straight by the time you're going over it.
Oftentimes, during my days as a pit reporter, when an incident like this happened, we would do a follow-up with another driver, and we would it's just natural reaction. You want to ask that next driver you're talking to, hey, you saw what happened, you aware of it. Does that put any doubt in your mind? I don't know that it necessarily puts a lot of doubt in your mind. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think what it does is it reminds you how quickly things can jump and bite even the best of the best.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if a wake-up call is the right way to say that, but
right, yeah.
It puts in perspective of what today means, right? So if you're going out there and this is the outcome of your day when you were hanging it out for the pole later this afternoon, then I don't think anyone's going to be too upset about it. The crew's going to unfortunately have a long day. But the thing is, to do it right now when there's no reward, it kind of puts it in perspective of, okay, I'm going to go out there. We're going to have 98% commitment. I'm going to leave myself just a little bit of breathing room. If anything feels off, I'm going to come in because this is not the time that I need to take that kind of a chance.
Now, one thing we did not get an opportunity to do, because yesterday you walked in the door before we went on the air, and then once we went on the air, we hit the ground running and had a lot to talk about yesterday. And I know that when the announcement was made, you were rejoining us. A lot of people, were quick to jump on social media and say, why him? No, they didn't, seriously. A lot of people were very, very, very happy that you were coming back to join us, and I was one of them for sure. Our whole staff was, because you're a part of this family and always will be. So for folks that don't know and aren't aware, let folks know what you've been up to.
Yeah, absolutely. Since my time here in INDYCAR, I've been pretty heavily involved in the sports car world, which has been a fun transition for me. I didn't think I would love sports car racing as much as I do. It's such a good environment. It reminds me a lot of INDYCAR, but just the community is there, and the racing's a lot of fun, especially when you get into these endurance races. Being out there at 3:30 in the morning at Daytona, running through the dark as fast as you can is a pretty cool experience. But this year, unfortunately, it's been somewhat of a tough year. We started with JB Motorsports racing in the Michelin Pilot Series and Toyota Supra. And then, unfortunately, about a month ago, we lost Mr. Hattori in a car accident down in Charlotte. So that's kind of the end of our championship with his team, unfortunately. But we're working pretty hard to get something put back together for the second half of this year. So I think we're pretty close. I think you'll see us be making an announcement here in the next week or so to continue running in Michelin Pilot for the rest of the season. But my eyes are always here in INDYCAR, and especially being here watching the biggest race of the year with you guys. It makes you want to come back, I will say that.
And I was going to say, you haven't closed the door on coming back here and coming back to the series. It's just, it takes a lot of work.
Absolutely. It sure does. It takes a lot of funding. We're well aware of that. We've been pretty good at it in the past. I think, there's still an opportunity for us to come back. But for me, sports car racing has just been a new challenge, and it's just been really enjoyable. So I've just been kind of enjoying that ride at the moment.
Now you're living in Connecticut.
Yeah, I followed my fiance up there, so I will say it's a lot different from the Midwest, man. I didn't think there was a big cultural difference between regions of our country, but it seems to be.
Let's get the thoughts and impressions of one of the legendary owners in Indy 500 history, Chip Ganassi. He's with Rich Nye.
Chip, it's pole day in Indianapolis. I know you want to win the race, and that's what's most important. But you've put a lot of emphasis on being on the pole here, too. How much effort do you put into being fastest today?
Well, you know, the first thing you need to do is put yourself in a position to take advantage of that, you know. And I mean, I want to say to everybody, you know, we were pretty bad here last year, and we had to work hard to pick up about 2 or 2.5 miles an hour just to get back to where we are, you know, to be in contention for the pole. So when you get that close, you know, you might as well go for it here, and that's what we're doing today.
You've had a lot of great drivers and a lot of great wins. Have you ever had a driver that started this season the way Alex Palou has started this year?
Well, no one's ever had a driver that's done that, so I guess the last time somebody did that was 1964. That was Foyt. He was his own team then, so my hat's off to him for doing it, but my hat's off to Alex as well, and the 10-car guys. They're just doing a great job, and, you know, they worked hard over the winter, and they're very focused about what they want to get done.
How do you size up the field at this point going for the pole today?
You know, it's really, you know, there's 4 or 5 guys that are in it right now. I mean, I can't imagine, you know, you got a lot of things that can happen in terms of, you know, wind direction and, you know, if we're going to get any clouds or not. That's, you get up into these, you know, 230 plus speeds, the slightest little wind or cloud has an effect on your car, on the engine. So you're up in the tall cotton, as they say, and so it's very, very little changes make big differences. So it's a tall order. You know, all our engineers are hard at work today, I can tell you.
Thanks, Chip. Alex?
With Scott McLaughlin at the track hospital. And Scott, I know you had a chance to look at the replay of what happened from your perspective.
Yeah, I was just building loose across the run and sort of ran out of tools. So I should have made a change, but or at least stopped. But yeah, it's just this place bites when you think you're on top of it, or not at least on top of it, but just there or thereabouts. So yeah, I'm bummed for everyone on the team. They deserve more than that. But yeah, the Pennzoil Yellow Submarine will fight again. We'll get going, and I'm just grateful to the INDYCAR and the safety that I'm okay. Worried about my wife. She was crying and felt bad and whatever, but I just want to get on the horse now and get after it.
I know it was so tough with the wind the last couple of days. How were the conditions of the track different when you were able to get out there?
Not much different. I think we just ran the gauntlet a little bit, just feeling what it would do. We just ran a little light there, and I probably should have made the decision to pull out.
Well, we're glad to see that you're all right, and we'll see you in the race trip.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
Over.
Well, we're down here on the 12 stand of Ron Rzucki with Ron Rzucki, I should say, and we were just talking off air how all the Penske stands are connected with each other when it comes to data. So how much have you guys been analyzing what happened to Scott McLaughlin just a few moments ago?
Obviously, first and foremost, hope Scott's all right, and hate to see that for any of our guys or anybody out here for sure. But no, we're all connected. We're watching each other's runs. We're learning off of each other. We know what the balance was. We know how he was running. It looked like a pretty solid run that he was doing. I'm not sure if what caught him out there. Maybe a push to snap or something. I'm not sure, but we'll get with it. Look at it later. But each of us are putting together a game plan this morning, trying to have a run for the pole later on.
When something like this happens to a team car and you guys are getting ready to go out, what crosses your mind when it comes to maybe making a change to the race car?
Certainly we'll look at how free his run was or how much understeer his run was and try and adjust accordingly. Regardless of the incident, we would have been doing that anyway. So, we're just trying to learn off of each other in each situation.
Best of luck today. Thanks for your time.
All right, thank you so much.
That's Ron Rzucki, the strategist on the 12 car of Will Power, going for the pole here later today.
So, Zach, we'll ask you to go back and kind of translate, if you will, Scott's explanation for what happened and kind of put that in layman's terms so even the most casual fan understands what he was talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one thing is we start to learn as a young driver when you get on your first oval. For me, I was lucky because of the road to Indy. At the time, we were getting to race ovals at young age of 15 or so. And one lesson you're taught right away is the car starts to feel loose and you catch it. You might get one save, you might get two, but you got to come to pit lane and get the car fixed. Well, the problem is qualifying here at Indy, the car is going to have a few snaps on you because it's just the name of the game. You got to be so close to that edge that you got to chase the car with tools, and that's what Scott was talking about, that he ran out of tools. So he did the first couple of laps. The car must have been moving around on him, and he was working his weight jacker and his anti-roll bars in the car to kind of keep up with that and manage how loose the car was or how much understeer he had. But you get to that third lap, and if you've already used up all your resources, you're kind of stuck with whatever you have for the next few corners to finish the run. And I know why Scott continued, because you're always running as if it's qualifying then. So what were you going to do if this is the car that he had later today? If he got this second or third lap in his qualifying attempt for the pole, he was out of tools, you're going to stick with it. And I'm sure that's what he was trying to do, is just trying to get those data points. But it's just, you hate to see it when it bites you.
One of the things that I'm sure IndyCar will want to take a look at is the fact that one of those wheels came dislodged. I mean, that's a primary focus for them and an area of concern. I mean, it did not launch, which is good, but that's part of the debrief. And again, as you well know, IndyCar, they take a look at not only the car post-crash, but they took a look at the video, the data, and all that stuff. And that's why so many safety improvements have been made over the last 10 or 15 years.
No, absolutely. That's the thing that I've always appreciated about this series, is they take our safety really, really seriously. You can constantly see an improvement every year, and they do. They have that NTSB approach to every crash. I mean, it's funny. Certain drivers will get their own bulletin and the safety book. We always joke. You never want to be one of those guys, because it means you ended up getting hurt in the car, and they improved the car from it. But, we can look back at some major accidents. James Hinchcliffe, when he had his serious crash here a few years back, that led us to having metal tabs on our suspension pieces, so those pieces cannot enter the cockpit anymore. For me in 2019, I actually hurt my leg a little bit with that crash late in the race, when I think was that Ray Hall and Bourdais got together and we were collected in it. And then we ended up with new padding around the bulkhead of the car, because it wasn't a problem for the taller drivers because their knees were further down into the footwell of the car. But us shorter guys, our knees are closer to that bulkhead, so they even made an improvement for us there.
20-minute caution period. Single car incident involving Scott McLaughlin. Hard contact with the turn 2 wall. Scott is okay. We've spoken to him. Obviously frustrated. And Penske GM Kyle Moyer, who's his race strategist, says that essentially we'll see them tomorrow for practice. And they'll roll off 12th. And Kyle Moyer says they will be fine. Well, a guy that's so good, it took 2 people to replace him, our driver analyst, Davey Hamilton. And Davey,
yeah.
I know that you guys would love to be fighting it out with the top 12, but you're not in the last row shootout. But handling the race strategy for Jack Harvey, how has the week been, and how did you feel like the day went yesterday?
The week's actually gone well, Mark. We feel the cars are good in traffic. We've been in traffic a lot. We shot some numbers up there, been in the top 10 at the end of the day in traffic, which is good. By ourselves, we knew we were a little bit off the pace. The cars were they were still conservative going into qualifying. So the first run we made was too conservative. We had too much downforce, just point blank. It was too easy to drive, and ran that, low 230, 230.3. So we knew we had more. So we went back out in the afternoon, got rid of some downforce, but then we missed the balance, Mark, and we just had too much understeer. So we were going to go out for a third time, but by the time that we knew that we were locked in the race, it's risk to reward at that point. And so we just wrote it out going, hey, this is just qualifying. Could we move up? We felt like we could turn a 231 even, which moves us up probably 7 or 8 spots, but that doesn't mean anything for this race. You can start anywhere. So,
what was your driver, Jack Harvey, and maybe his teammate Ryan Hunter-Reay, what did they say about the wind conditions yesterday? Because I know it seemed like it was a challenge.
Yeah, it was a challenge. So, they have tools. Zach was talking about the tools in the car that we have, and they were able to use those tools, and there's so many buttons in these wheels. Oh, my gosh. I mean, it's crazy of all the things that they have to work with the weight jackers, being able to transfer right front weight to left front weight, dump in the rear of the car. There's so many things that go on, not counting, having to deploy the extra energy you get from the hybrid. And when to do that, that was another thing we missed on the first run. Is if you guys, I'm sure you notice, is people are doing it so much different throughout. Some are just giving it the trickle deploy. Some are dumping it all at one lap. But one thing I will have to say about Firestone, they brought a great tire, very, very consistent tire. You see the times at the end of the run, just as consistent as they were at the first run. So 4 laps is very easy, which makes it nice for a driver. But when the balance goes off, you still have those issues that you got to fix. But no, tomorrow's going to be big. Now, between as we're teammates, right? And you say we're teammates, we share notes, we share a lot of stuff. But we got Ryan on long wheelbase, low roll center, stiff springs. Strikes are gone.
That makes me laugh. Just being his teammate, I was like, that is a Ryan Hunter Ray.
Yeah.
He always preferred that side of the box.
Yeah.
I remember it at Dreddy going back and forth
Yep.
before.
And then on Jack's side, we're high roll centers, soft springs, strikes off, wing up. You know what I mean? But we run the exact same speed. That is the craziest thing to me.
Well, that's what Ryan talked about that yesterday, as a matter of fact, after that morning practice session. He said, we are totally opposite in our approach, but yet our speed is the same.
Exact same. So fundamentally, I feel like the team, and we know Dry and Reinbold, they're great. Dennis has done this a long time. I promise you there's not a better built car out there. They build those cars. They're tremendous. The body fits are outstanding. You look in the gearboxes like looking in a mirror. They have everything proper. Where I feel that there's just maybe a teeny bit of lack is not running full time. You don't learn all those little teeny, secrets, those little teeny things that you could change. And I think one of them for here that I noticed when some guys, I watched Will yesterday come off turn 2, and he was in 6th gear, and he gained 6 miles an hour down the back straightaway. We gained 2. You know what I mean? So there's some aero. Even though our body fit's perfect, I think there's a situation where the tilt, the rake, your ride height means so much, and there's that sweet spot to find that straightaway speed. And I think we're just missing that just a little bit because they did go to the wind tunnel, but you learn that by racing week in, week out. And then unfortunately, they don't have that opportunity now. Tomorrow's a whole new day. Tomorrow's race day, right? I mean, we're putting all race setups on there. We have chosen to keep, each driver wants to keep the setup they have, which are totally opposite. We're going to go out and see what happens. The really great thing back in my day, we didn't have Monday. Sunday was it. We qualify, we come to carb day, we get the car close, that's it. Now you could try something tomorrow, and if it doesn't work, you still got carb day to change back and make sure the balance is right, the car feels good. So for our case, I think it's really good.
Even though the approach is different and what they prefer is different, I know you've had teammates over the years, and you've worked on race teams where guys have worked together on teams. I got to imagine that it's really enjoyable from an ownership perspective and a team perspective. I got to imagine these two get along about as well as anybody ever has.
Hey, great teammates, honestly. And the great thing when we're in the engineering meetings, nobody's even on the bad days or the tough days. It's a team. The engineers, great Jeff and Mike have been doing this a long time, right? And they've worked together before. Matter of fact, they're both engineers of mine, so it's easy for me to chime in. Everybody is calm, cool, collective in that garage. They have a focus. They know where it needs to be. When it's time to go on the racetrack, when the car needs to get prepped, they're as good as anybody here. So that does make it very easy. And when what made it easy for me as well is Dennis. I know those guys. A lot of those guys were on my crew, and there's a lot of faith in them. And I promise you that Ryan Hunter Ray, if you ask him or Jack Harvey, when about the people they trust him, just like let me tell you what trust means. It's Colton Herta. His guys put a car back together. They go to lane 1, and they blow a fast lap. They don't do a systems check.
Right.
Yeah.
He trusts his guys. You know what I mean? He goes, hey, I know what you guys could do. I trust you guys. I'm going out. I'm going to lay a lap down. He gets in the show yesterday, where Armstrong did a systems check. Not that he didn't try, but that's usually what you do.
Experience helps.
Experience helps,
Yeah.
and Colton. Hats off on both those kids. I mean, they both took big hits, especially Armstrong. That was a heavy hit. When you hit the gearbox like that, those do not feel good.
And
So
the
now-
energy goes away pretty quick.
Yeah.
One of the things that you told me that you were most excited about this is some of the insight that you had already picked up that you're going to be able to translate to folks when you get back with us in Detroit.
Yeah, and one of them is the hybrid system. That is a very difficult system to figure out and when to use it, how to deploy it, how to charge it. It's very hard. I mean, there's a lot of strategy. And as you can see, because I know you guys have monitors on here of when they're using it and when they're not, everybody's all over the map. There's no secret sauce. Okay, you got to do it this way. Chevrolet came to me on our last run. They walk up to me on the stand and say, hey, we changed it to deploy it in turn 3 on the left. I go, whoa, like what? Jack's getting ready to take off. I go, no, we're going to stick where we're at, right? I mean, it's too late. I already got him. We know where we need to be on fuel. We know where we need to be. But that's how questionable, I should say, that hybrid unit is as far as really taking advantage of it. And the more I learn about it, you always, we have it. Everybody has it. It's here. More likely it's here to stay. So you try to pick out the good things about it, right? You try to find all the good things. And I'll be honest, it's very hard to do. It's very hard to pick out because it adds weight to the car. They're very hot. They haven't been all that dependable. It takes a lot of energy to charge them, so you have to do it organically. And if you don't do it organically, if you have to pull the paddle, it's like putting the brakes on. So hopefully they continue working on that program, but there is no secret sauce. I promise you in this top 12, when they go out, or everybody today, when they employ that, they're all going to be different.
And that's one thing I will say, that the hybrid system has put a dependency on simulation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing that even these teams are really starting to use now with these high-end simulators that we have with Chevrolet and with Honda, is trying all these different strategies. Because that's the one place on the simulator that you can really play in a way of, okay, we have these 5 different protocols that we're going to use. We're going to go through them all. We're going to deploy them in different ways, and we're going to see what that lap looks like. Because you can run it on a simulation on the computer, and it can kind of tell you when is the best place to deploy these. Yeah. But until you do it on the real-life simulator with the driver in the car, then you start to get the feel of, okay, is it practical to actually deploy it here and regen here? And it's a big question mark.
And I think we're behind on simulator, right? I think our particular system is behind. Sports car seems like they're on it, right?
Well, we had it for a couple of years, right?
Yeah, they seem like on the sports car side, they really have that thing mastered, and it seems to be a hybrid unit that is much more functionable, dependable, because they run 24-hour races. So I think we need, I don't know the difference in them, but I think, we're going to end up venturing that way, I'm going to have to think.
I will say the one thing that blew my mind about sports car racing, not that I didn't realize it before, but I didn't really notice it until I was a part of it all, is a lot of these, the dependability comes from, yes, there's 24-hour races, but we're doing 36-hour tests.
Yeah.
You go to a place like Sebring, and you're running 3 12-hour races there in succession. And the whole purpose of that test is just to see what falls off the car, what breaks, what do we need to improve. And I think eventually we're going to get to that same spot here with the hybrid system in IndyCar. But, the focus is making it last for these races in a bit of that shorter format.
Yeah.
Let's hear from Marcus Armstrong, standing by with Drake York.
Yeah, we'll see Marcus in this next practice here pretty shortly, and what an effort by this team. I talked to your crew chief earlier this morning, and they're putting the final touches on this race car. How do you feel headed into the last row shootout?
Feeling good. The car looks a lot nicer and cleaner this morning. Obviously, we were in a massive rush yesterday to get everything done, and huge credit to the boys and girls on the 66 crew who got it all sorted. So today we're going to be going for it.
Well, he just arrived at the 66 stand. We'll let him get to work. That's Marcus Armstrong. We'll see him later here in this practice and also later today in the last row shootout.
Yeah, good stuff. Tremendous insight on how the rest of this day will go. And, Davey, always a tough part if you're Scott McLaughlin. And, he was despondent almost from the time he climbed out of the race car. Well, before he climbed out of the race car, in fact, and very frustrated. But Kyle Moyer told us moments after that accident happened that, look, we feel pretty good about our chances on race day. And if it had to happen, I guess the silver lining is they'll roll off no worse than
that's right. Things happen, right? I mean, Scott, what a great team, obviously, right? They went out and ran the fastest lap. I think is that the fastest lap of the month, potentially, I think? I'm not so sure anybody went faster than that. I don't have all the stats, but I mean.
Faster than Pelot ran yesterday.
Yeah, pretty darn good lap. I think it could have been fastest of the month. And the car looked so good going around there, but as we've seen throughout the week, things happen quickly with Colton yesterday, with, as we just was talked to Armstrong, it happened very quickly. Now, on Kyle Larson's situation, that car bottomed out. It was the first lap, and you could see that little puff of smoke, which is the underwing touching the ground, right? And so we know what happened there, but these other ones, man, they're really not giving the feedback, I don't think, to the driver as they would like, and I think that's a situation. It could be the extra weight. You got to remember that it's 105 additional pounds from last year. The hybrid not only being back behind, it's really axle, basically where your just in front of your rear axle, but the biggest thing, the cooler is right side high up in the side pod. It's really high. So there's a lot of weight up there, too, with all the trying to keep that hybrid cool. another thing, you know, if you recall, everyone wants to go out with their car as cool as possible. That hybrid takes about an hour and 15 minutes just to get that particular thing cool. I mean, that's back in the garage with every fan you have is so trapped in that bell housing. It's very hard to get access to it to keep it cool, and so it takes a little longer to cool the cars down. And you know, we know the top 12, which they're all happy. You know what I mean? No matter where they're going to start, everyone wants to pole, and the pole's great, and they have a great opportunity to, you know, get all the accolades that go along with it. But you know, there's one guy still that's not going to be in this dang race, and that's the one that you feel bad for, right?
Well, and that's where, you know, that insight about the hybrid system really comes into play because, yeah, for the 12 drivers, it'll now be 11 without Scott McLaughlin. They're going to have a break before the final 6 go out. But for the guys in the last row shootout who want to make multiple attempts, you're saying going out on that second attempt after a cycle of the hybrid unit, you may not get the full benefit from that thing.
And by the way, there's another little thing you learn when you're back on that side. Is these engines, you have 4 possibilities, 4 qualifying runs on attack mode. You get 4, right? That's all you got. Some of them may have already used them. They may not have attack mode for today. We used 1 on Fast Friday. We used 2 yesterday. So yesterday afternoon when we were getting, you know, not knowing if we were going to be locked in or not, it's like, do we go out right now with that attack mode and try to get in right now? Or do we wait till, just in case you were to get bumped out, do we save that attack mode for today? And when I say attack mode, it's probably a 10th, maybe 0.2 of a mile an hour. It's not a big deal, but you know how those
things matter.
Everything's mattered. Yeah.
Hey, Davey, was Fast Friday as much of a throwaway day as we kind of speculated with how different the conditions were? I mean, how much work did you guys feel like you really got done with as hot as it was?
Yeah, you're right. I had allocated 4 sets of tires for that day. I used 1. You know, so it really didn't lay out the way we hoped to. But I have to say, we made a mistake at 5 o'clock. We finally made it with the wind blowing like it was, with the heat the way it was. It's just like, hey, it's too big of a gamble. You know, we feel like we're pretty close. Let's come out tomorrow. We have a practice. We got 30 minutes. But then with all of a sudden 40 minutes to go, the wind stops and overcast comes. I'm going, sorry, guys, wrong move, right? We Dennis and I both agreed to do that. And but they got fast. But saying that is, I don't know if it would have changed anything or not for us.
Yeah, I don't know that it changed. I mean, there were a handful of drivers that went out, and I guess they improved their position on the timing and scoring sheet, but I don't know how much of that transferred over to Saturday.
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. I really don't think it. And this year, temperatures are cool, right? We're not super hot. It's the winds being pretty tricky, right?
Yeah.
It's changed again today. I mean, it's going a different direction today. But I have to say, when I seen Scott have his accident, as soon as I seen it in the garage, I was heading here to see you guys. I looked at the windsock and the pylon. The flags were drooping. That was a good time. I mean, there was no wind.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that caused that issue.
One of the things that Zach speculated on was some of the issues that these drivers are having just for the car just inexplicably breaking loose is the additional weight that they've added to the car.
No question. So, you know, people go, well, 100 pounds, you know, is that a lot? They ask, like, when you say 100. But then I say, okay, first of all, go pick up 100 pounds. And then go put like a 10-foot rope on that 100 pounds and swing it around till you can get 4 Gs to see how that works out for you, right? And so that's the difference. I mean, 100 pounds is a massive amount of weight.
Just to put it in perspective, I mean, we used to move 5 pounds around the front of the car. You could move 5 pounds further towards the nose of the car. You would feel it as a driver, and that was a tuning tool. So, I mean, you think that 5 is enough for us to be like, okay, yeah, that was better, that was definitely worse. Now think of 100 in a place that you particularly maybe don't want it necessarily. It's a big change, and it's going to change how these cars feel. It's going to change how you predict its behavior. It's going to take some time to adjusting, but when we see that late snap, it's just unrecoverable. It's just because it's got so much momentum bound up. There's really no way to correct the issue once it's already begun.
And has that been illustrated most, Davey, by the fact that we have seen accidents, Colton and Armstrong in turn 1, McLaughlin in 2, Kyle Larson in 3, Kiffin Simpson in 4. I mean, all 4 corners with that extra weight, there is not one hot spot.
Right, and I think it's, you know, you try to get the best balance you have. I'm going to go way back. You know, when this car was built, it was built to be, there's actually 225 additional pounds on this car from new. So when the car was built and designed by Dallara, they put the underwing, where the placement is, the wheelbase, where all the suspensions hung on these cars, the gearboxes. They built it around a car 225 pounds lighter than it is today. So when you add all these components on it, especially, well, let's go back. Okay, the aero screen came, big, huge safety factor, but that's all high as you can get. That's up as high as you can get. You know, that aero screen, it's a thick glass on oval, so it's very heavy. You got everything is so high. So that changed one element. Now you have this second element. Now, if you said, Delara, I want the hybrid, I want the aero screen, I want all these things, they'd build a totally different cars where everything is laid out for a better balance. I just think it's really hard to get the balance with additional weight.
4.5 minutes remaining in this particular session, and those that last chance shootout participants will be getting some track time soon. 4 minutes, 20 seconds, as we said. Dixon has turned a lap at 233.240, and Joseph Newgarden with a lap of 231.839. In case you're just joining us, Scott McLaughlin went out early in the session, turned 5 laps, and was the fastest. Heavy damage to the car, making contact with the wall in turn 2. And so Scott McLaughlin, it looks like, will roll off 12th, according to Kyle Moyer of Penske Racing and his race strategist. Not enough time to make repairs to a car to get him out for qualifying later, so they'll work on a backup car and have a 2-hour session tomorrow. So, Davey, give us the order of the day. What's things going to look like for the race team tomorrow? What do you hope to accomplish that 2-hour practice session?
Yeah, so we had our guys come in this morning, gave them a little bit of a break, and hence they came in late this morning, Mark. But we are preparing the car for race conditions. So it's going to be just like we'd pull out on race day. We're going to run heavy fuel tomorrow. We're going to do long runs tomorrow. It's going to be a traffic day tomorrow. We're going to be in traffic all day long. But we wanted to come in today, make all those changes today instead of doing it in the morning, where we have just try to make it easier on the guys. They're working 2 days, but they don't have to be here so early and just kind of be relaxed. And, you know, our goal is like the rest of the week is getting a lot of traffic and hope we're towards the top of the charts like we were early in the week.
What's the difference between the approach tomorrow and the approach to Carb Day?
Well, I think tomorrow that you probably can take a little more risk and run some more laps, a little more risk on your setup, just because you do have time to fix the car, you know, and where Carb Day, it's too close. And I think tomorrow, and one reason I say that is just like our team, we have 2 totally different setups. So if one of them doesn't work and you go over the edge and you bang something up, you do have more time to fix it.
Nolan Siegel rolls off. So Nolan Siegel, we're getting ready to check in with him, but he was pulled away for a moment. Now we do have him, apparently, Alex. Well, I understand. They're busy. A lot on their mind down there, Alex.
Well, that's right. A beehive of activity and publicity for Nolan Siegel. And Nolan back here in Gasoline Alley, I know it's a much more relaxing qualifying Sunday than it was 12 months ago.
Yeah, a little bit disappointed to not be running in the Fast 12 today, for sure. But, you know, I'm certainly happy that I'm not running in the other session. So mixed feelings, but certainly more relaxed than last year.
Certainly, and I mean, what was it like yesterday? The conditions were such a big topic of discussion with the wind for us. So watching it on the radio and calling it, how was it from the cockpit?
It was tough for sure. We had a really well balanced car all day, and it made my job easier for sure. We just didn't quite have the speed we thought we'd have, so we're looking into it. But overall, very happy with the job everyone did, and I think that we did a very good job executing and keeping ourselves out of trouble on a day that was very challenging.
Now, as you reset, looking ahead to race runs of tomorrow and on Friday, what do you think you have race-wise with your 6 car?
I think we've got really good race pace. We've been good in traffic. We've got a really good balance and a good handling car. And for whatever reason, the qualifying speed wasn't quite there, but the balance is what matters in traffic, and nothing from qualifying is really going to matter. It doesn't really matter all that much where you start. Obviously, it's better to start further up, but we can work our way up from here. I have no worries about next Sunday.
That's Nolan Siegel getting set for his first start in the 500. Over to Rich Nye.
With Alex Palou, all eyes will be on the number 10 bright yellow DHL Honda, which has won everything so far this month here in Indianapolis. You going to win the pole today?
I'll try. I'll do my best. I can tell you that. I mean, it's going to be close. It's been really tough, honestly, all days here with the high boost conditions that we had. But yeah, I'm confident that we have some speed in the car to try and fight for pole.
How important is it to win the pole when the real goal is to win the Indy 500?
I mean, I don't think it helps a lot. Like, once you already have a fast car and you can start, like, in the top 10, let's say, the job is already done. But the race this weekend is qualifying. That's what we care about right now. So the ice is on trying to fight for pole.
So size up the Fast 12 for me. We already know that Scott McLaughlin has said they're not going to try to repair that car. It turned the fastest lap in this practice session, but there's one pole contender who's not in the show now.
Yeah, I mean, it's as I said, it's tough. It's tough to be. There's a thin line between being really fast and not being able to complete a run. So yeah, that's what everybody's fighting at the moment, and yeah, we're just hoping to get it right.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you. Alex Palou, boy, he just keeps going fast.
Yeah, he's been doing that all season long. It hasn't mattered road course, street circuit, or here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He has been very, very quick. Dueling driver analyst with Zach Veach and Davey Hamilton here in the IndyCar radio booth. I want to get your thoughts on what we just heard from Alex, because, Davey, he kind of downplayed how important having the pole for a race day. It is a 500-mile race. Your guys are not going to have that track position at the start of the race. Kind of walk us through why, maybe it is a little more important than Alex is kind of leading on.
Yeah, one thing, before aero screens came around and you're out in the open, I've been on both ends of it. The farther back you go, you realize what dirty air really is, because your helmet's banging around and it's very difficult. When you're up front, it's pretty smooth sailing. And another thing with these cars, the way they are in today's environment, it seems like, and we'll learn more tomorrow, because it's really a true run. We know what everybody's doing tomorrow because qualifying's over with. It seems like the first 6, maybe 7 cars can get passing done. Once it gets beyond that, the air gets so dirty that it becomes a bit of a freight train, and you can't really pass back there. They just kind of stay spread out. Now, like I say, we're going to find out more about that tomorrow. So that tells you want to be up that first 6 or 7 cars, because that's going to give you more of a challenge to fight. I think if you fall behind that, you're going to fight to get up there, whether it's making it up in pit stops, doing a little bit of different strategy to try to, beat guys in the pits to get up there, Nick. I think you definitely want to be towards the front, and that means from the start of the race.
And, Zach, you have experienced what that dirty air is like over the course of a 500-mile race here.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with this generation with the aero screen. Dave, you had a really good point. My first Indy 500, I guess my 3 500s before the aero screen, your helmet's exposed. You get a real sense of what that turbulent air is like. The aero screen definitely calms that down a bit, but, this car, it seems like that's been a common trend with it, that, yes, Palou had a really good point. If you're in that fast 10, yes, your car is good enough to kind of get up there, and that's where you want to be, but Davey's point is exactly right. That first to 6th place car in the train, you really have some freedom to kind of work your way forward, but if you see yourself in the midfield where you're, that 12th, 13th, 14th car in line, to get yourself forward, it takes a little help, whether that's pit stops or the guys in front of you making mistakes. So when you see yourself buried in that pack, you're kind of just trying to take care of your equipment, push the guy in front of you. Hopefully he times a pass wrong that really allows you to take advantage of it. So the name of the game when you're stuck in that line is just to make sure that you don't open yourself up to a mistake that allows someone to get around you.
We should point out that with the first hour of this practice session in the books, it's now closed for the now 11 drivers that'll battle for the pole, and now it is open for the drivers in the last row shootout. And, Davey, the timing stand, the guys for these 4 teams, any trepidation now for this hour practice session for them, considering what they just saw happen about a half hour ago to Scott McLaughlin in turn 2?
And it's the same thing. These guys these 4 guys for those 3 spots, they're driving way harder than these 12.
Sure.
Their cars are not right. They're struggling for speed. They're having to do things that it's probably not so comfortable to drive, to try to get the cars really freed up, just to find that little additional speed. I know yesterday I seen Abel go out 2 times, went out for 2 attempts, and didn't even make 1 lap, right? So that tells me there were issues with that car. My understanding is gearbox issues. But, in today's environment as well, gearbox are pretty straightforward, honestly. They're pretty straightforward. We all run, you think it's water for gear lube, but it is lube. And the insides of them all look like, mirror. They're all been rimmed and they're all, ready to go. So not sure what was going on with Abel, but he's definitely he's the only guy of the 4 that has not been in a 500. So if you look at that stat, he's probably going to be the one that has the least amount of opportunity to get in this race. But we'll have to wait and see.
Let's hear from Felix Rosenquist. He ended this 1-hour practice session for the top 12, fourth quick here at IMS.
Yeah, a solid result in the morning session, and just outside the top 6 yesterday. What's going to need to change for you today to get in the Fast 6? Obviously, having McLaughlin out makes it a little bit easier, but what else do you need to get in that Fast 6?
Yeah, first of all, I'm happy he's okay. That was a pretty big hit. Looks like he came out of the car quickly, so that's good to see. Obviously, don't want one of our big competitors to be out of it, but that's the way it is, I guess. Happy he's okay. It felt pretty good, to be honest. We've been, I think everyone's fighting the balance. It's like one little tweak on the car, and it has a massive effect on track. And this year it's just been specifically hard to dial in the package. So everyone's very focused. Everyone's running simulations. Every time the flag changes or the track temp goes up 1 or 2 degrees or down, everything just changes. So the guys have been doing a phenomenal job, both the mechanics and the engineers, because it's just stuff going on the car, off the car, on the car, changing all the time, even when we're just sitting in the garage. So it's been an intense month for all of us, and it's really putting us to the test. But we have hopefully 2 more runs here, and we're going to give it all.
You mentioned little tweaks making a massive difference. Why is that? Is it something new for this year? Is it the wind, conditions, or the hybrid? What is making these little tweaks have such massive impacts on the race car?
I think actually the conditions are pretty good. Like, this is pretty favorable, I'd say, at least during the years I've done it. We had days where it's way hotter than this. So I think it's just the weight of the rear of the car now. You don't have that to fall back on. If the rear goes, it goes. Like, there's no recovering from it. So you just have to be way smarter in the way you approach the balance and the way you approach the balance. And it's not like the front is, super solid either. Like, if you play it too conservative and you start understeering, like, you're going to have the same effect. So, it is a heavier car. It's heavier in the rear. And it's just way harder to fight that this year. We see everyone. It's just like the amount of lifts we're seeing. I've been here years where you've probably seen like 3 lifts through qualifying, and now we see probably more than half the field lift at some point. So pretty sporty. We're definitely working out there, which I think the fans enjoy. So
that's Felix Rosenquist, 4th in the morning session. Let's go to Rich Nye.
Joseph Newgarden will be in that run for the pole this afternoon. Joseph, what did you see in conditions today, and what do you expect this afternoon will be different than yesterday?
I got you. Yeah, it's just tougher than probably I would have thought it was going to be. Some of the conditions are better. The wind is slightly down. The temperature, at least ambient-wise, is similar. The pressures, is a little bit heavier from a pressure standpoint. And then the track is going to be elevated, I think, because we have less clouds. So you're just trying to juggle all these ingredients. And I'd say the car is not easy to drive is probably the best way to describe it. But, we got to make it work. All of us are going to try and, make it as quick as possible. You got to lay it out there a little bit if you want to go for the pole. So, we're going to try and – I got to get back to the garage here because I'm going to try and figure out what the best thing for us is.
As the 2-time defending champion, how much would you like to win a pole here in Indianapolis?
Yeah, I would love – everybody would, right? It's great to get a pole. It's great for the team. So we're, super excited to be in the mix today. We're going to be going for it. It's not the end-all, be-all, but it's a big deal to win the pole around here.
And when Scott crashes like he did, how does that affect the team?
The good thing about being a part of Team Penske is they pick right up and keep going. So I think there's going to be no problems from that standpoint. It's just, it's tough to see it happen. I'm glad he's okay. And it's a little more work than we're all going to want, but this team's the best in these type of situations.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thanks.
Good stuff, and thanks to Joseph Newgarden. Wish you the best of luck later today. Happy to have with us from Nashville Super Speedway, our good friend Ann Fishgrunden. And we've been talking to you the past couple of years about Iowa, and now your focus, is on all of the events throughout the course of the year on behalf of Penske Entertainment. But you have shifted to Music City.
I have moved to the Music City.
That wasn't much of a cultural change, was it, for you from Iowa to Nashville, Tennessee?
No, no. It's great that it's not too far from Indianapolis. We're excited that Penske Entertainment is taking on the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix to bring the fans to the Nashville area, right? Nashville Super Speedway for the championship race this year.
Well, I can tell you that I've been around long enough that I was with the INDYCAR series the first time they raced at Nashville Super Speedway. And I've got to give a lot of credit to our friends at SMI because that track looked phenomenal. It looked like it opened a couple of weeks before we got there.
Yes, the team there is amazing. They have put so much time and energy into that racetrack, and it is going to be the perfect spot for us to hopefully celebrate an amazing championship.
Yeah, when we drove down to Barber Motorsports Park, it became clear for those who haven't been through Nashville why it was going to be difficult to continue with a street race on the streets of Nashville, Tennessee.
It is definitely the first question I get asked every time I say that I am the president of the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. When are we going back downtown?
Yeah.
When's it come back downtown? I said, you know what? Give us a little bit. Let's focus on being at the racetrack first. But you're right. When you drive through Nashville, the stadium, the new Titan Stadium is growing up. The old stadium is still being used. There's a lot going on. I mean, every day it feels like something new is happening in Nashville. Bigger buildings, more apartments, more restaurants. It is a very busy place to be. So it's fun for the teams and our fans to go celebrate downtown Nashville during that weekend, but then join us over at the racetrack.
And I think every effort was made to do that last year. But I will say, in terms of the racetrack, it's almost impossible to recreate a city vibe at a racetrack that's off-site like that. But I'll tell you what, there was so much to see and do over the course of the weekend, and I would imagine that's the focus for this year, too.
It will be. There will still be Freedom Friday downtown on Friday night on Broadway. Big Machine is celebrating 20 years of being a label, so big event down there Friday night. And then Saturday and Sunday, everything happening at Nashville Super Speedway.
I think we're excited about the relationship that we've developed with Big Machine, aren't we?
Yes, very. Scott Borchetta and his team are amazing advocates, amazing partners. We couldn't do this without them, and we're excited that they've stayed on board with us as we transition into this new event out there at the
It always helps when they're a fan first.
Absolutely.
So the most important thing, the dates, and the ticket information. Where can people get ticket information, and they better get them quick?
Yes, so tickets aren't on sale just yet. They're coming up here soon, so pay attention on social and our email blasts because we'll have a date here rather quickly for everyone. But for right now, go to musiccitygp.com for more information. Sign up for more information if you haven't already. And we'll be racing at Nashville Super Speedway August 30th and 31st.
For those that have not been, it's a close drive to Music City, but more importantly, when you're in the grandstand there, it's one of those venues where you can see all the way around the racetrack.
You can see it all, absolutely. Yeah. We have some premium seats high up if you want to be in those, flip down, high up seats, those really nice seats. Otherwise, there isn't a bad seat in the house.
And how do you feel about the opportunity to be the season finale? You got to be excited about it.
I am excited. Someone is giving me a little run for my money as he keeps winning every race. But, yes, we are seeing historic track times. We're seeing historic winning, right?
Yeah.
Apollo is conquering this season thus far. But we're still going to have a great race. We still are racing at Nashville Super Speedway. We just hope that we can crown the champion there, too.
Well, and sometimes, when somebody hasn't had a win, they push a little harder in that last race when that's what they're shooting for. And regardless whether the championship's decided or not, some guys may be driving for a future. They may want a new contract. So there's a lot of elements to that.
There's two things going on that racetrack, right? It's the championship, if it's not decided yet, and the actual race. So no matter what, it's going to be an amazing weekend and a great time.
One more time, Ann Fishburne, give us the website where people can follow and get information and how they can get information when tickets do go on sale.
Absolutely. Come visit us at musiccitygp.com, and all the information will be there.
Will we see you again along the trail at a couple of other races?
You may see me at my former stomping grounds over in Iowa, but outside of that, we are focused on Nashville.
Well, come back and visit with us.
Thank you guys so much. Yeah, yes, of course.
Yeah, well done. And that is the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix in Davie Hamilton. As I told her, when we showed up there last year, you and I remember you raced there at Nashville Super Speedway, and I was blown away at just the condition that facility was in. It was amazing.
Absolutely amazing. Like a brand new facility. And the great thing with it, Mark, is, as she just mentioned, one seat sees it all.
That's right.
I mean, we see it all, and we didn't know, it's a concrete track, something a little different, but they have first year we went, if you recall, it was pretty bumpy.
That's right.
But they fixed that up. There's 2 good lanes there right now. I think we need to be there all the time, personally. I just think it's a great racetrack to be on. It was a great race. Colton Hurd, if I recall, came from at the end, man. He turned it on and came around those guys on the outside and really made it happen. So So I'm excited about going there for sure, as always.
So Nick Yeoman, 45 minutes remaining in this session, and a lot on the line for these 4 drivers, these 4 teams.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the drivers that have been on the racetrack. Jacob Abel has gone out for 7 laps in this practice session, has not been able to turn a lap north of 228 miles per hour. His fastest lap right now at 227.909. Marcus Armstrong has been out in that brand new backup car that they pieced together. It looks a lot better. They got it decaled up and stickered up. He's been out for 3 laps. He has turned a fastest lap at 228.450. Renus VK has been out for 5 laps and is still struggling to get north of 225 miles per hour. He has turned 5 laps at 224.796. And then Marco Andretti is the 4th competitor in that last row shootout. We have not seen him in that Andretti Global car yet. Let's go to pit lane and Drake York.
Yeah, you just talked about Marcus Armstrong and that freshly wrapped number 66 Spectrum mobile car for Meyer Shank Racing. So we talked about kind of the Frankenstein car yesterday that made a couple of runs, ultimately didn't lock into the top 30. So I talked to Jimmy Looper this morning. He actually told me so the crew itself stayed as late as they possibly could in the garage till it closed, but the Speedway actually gave a special allowance to their wrap guy to actually wrap this car so it didn't have that Frankenstein look like it did yesterday. So they were also in the garage earlier this morning. I talked to Jimmy, and they were just doing the final touches on that race car, and that first run looked pretty solid, guys.
So, thanks for the update, Drake. And Renus VK has been out, turned a handful of laps. His top speed, 225.414. And Nick Yeoman had a chance to run downstairs for a minute and ran into Fever head coach Stephanie White. They're celebrating a big win. She waved the green flag to start it, along with Caitlin Clark. Alea Boston was here, Sophie Cunningham, and Michaela Timpson, all from the Fever, who got a big win over the Chicago Sky last night.
A lot of basketball fever running through this city. Of course, the Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. They're going to host the New York Knicks for game number 3 the night of the Indianapolis 500. And then, as you mentioned, one of the stories of the last year or two when it comes to sports in the state of Indiana is the arrival of Caitlin Clark. We knew it a little bit because we saw the kind of attention she drew at Iowa, not only at those basketball games. She showed up a couple times to Iowa Speedway.
Well, we had her on.
Yeah,
Georgia Henneberry talked to her when she was working with us.
I mean, she was loving IndyCar, so to have her here in Indianapolis, and I mean, I saw Gainbridge Fieldhouse was absolutely packed for their game the other night, so they're expected to have a great season. So we talk about it. I don't know how we fit it in, but the Racers, Pacers, and the Fever as well. I mean, it's a fun time to be a sports fan here in Central Indiana.
Well, again, I'm not suggesting that I write a sermon for anybody, but I do remember the legendary Archbishop Daniel Beekline so many years ago said, and Lord help our Pacers, I believe, at the close of his invocation on race day, as I recall, once upon a time.
Well, and we talked a little bit about this during the Grand Prix weekend, but it's one of my favorite all-time moments from qualifying is when Davey Hamilton was on the racetrack, and he hates to bring this up, and I think it was Paul Page who said, yeah, they're making noise, but I promise you they're not actually cheering for Davey Hamilton. They actually just put the Pacers score up on the big screen.
Yeah, as a rookie, I turned the fast lap I ever turned. The place goes crazy, which I don't know because you don't hear the car, but then it ended up being Pacers just moved on or won the game.
Yeah.
So, and you guys must be doing a good job by it. I have to say this because Todd Bradley, who's a great friend of mine, he was my HP connection all the years, has been listening in and watching 500 broadcasts, and what a great job everybody's doing, by the way, doing all the practices all week. It's outstanding. And that was mentioned that the Pacers game is after the 500, so guess what? I got to find Pacer tickets because he wants to come to watch the 500 and Pacer tickets. I got the hotel. I got to get Pacer tickets now.
Good luck.
Don't ask Jay Query because he's already letting everybody know that he doesn't have access.
Yeah, right. That's right. No, I think I got a line. But what a great opportunity, right, for somebody to be able to see the Indy 500.
Yeah.
It's a long day. I'll have to say that. It's a very long day, but he's excited for it.
Let's hear from Elio Castroneves.
Elio Castroneves comfortably qualified in the field himself, but standing on the 66 stand. Of course, part owner of Meyer Shank Racing. Elio, how are things looking so far on the 66 side of things?
Yeah, so far, well, first of all, Marcus feels pretty good today, I asked him if he's a little sore. He's like, nope, not really. It's like, that's what I want to hear. So now he feels pretty confident, which is great for us. And right now, just making small adjustments went out. It was too low on COP. We just want to build up the confidence, obviously, but the car has some adjustments that we need to make so that when we go out there and then we can put a good lap.
I know a lot of the focus since you won that fourth race back in 2021 as you getting to 5, but I also think about you as part owner of this team, and you got 2 really good bullets, you know, assuming Marcus makes the race. What would it mean to you to also win the race, not only as a driver, but an owner as well, even if it is with one of your 2 other cars?
Yeah, obviously the goal is to try to make a 5th, no question about it. However, we can't forget about, you know, having 2 other teammates, very, very strong, and looking forward to it. In the end of the day, we have 2 good chances to be in the podium, hopefully. So, but obviously we're gonna focus on the 06 when we put the helmet on, and try to do what we're looking for. And I think a lot of fans wants that too.
That's the 4-time winner, Elio Castroneves.
And to that end, Marcus Armstrong at 228.450. Marco Andretti, 229.781. Jacob Abel at 227.909. The slowest so far, Rich Nye, is Renus VK at 225.414.
And I'm down here in his pit with the Dale Coyne Racing team. And they have not just adjusted the front wing, they have completely changed the front wing and nose cone of that car. And so Renus will be going back out shortly, looking for speed. He's only up to 225 so far this morning. Let's talk about this day for Renus VK. 5 Indianapolis 500 starts. His worst start is 7th. All 5 of those starts with Ed Carpenter Racing, and he was always in the fight for the pole on this Sunday. Starting 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 7th. He'll start no better than 30th today, but I think this team is really concerned about just getting in the show this year. And his qualifying speed, his slowest speed, was his rookie year at 230.7. I don't think this team will probably get that close today to 230, but they might need it if they're going to make this race.
Fingers crossed for Renus VK. It's going to be quite an intense last chance shootout, and there's 4 guys setting up here taking you through this thing. 2 have driven an IndyCar on this track, 2 have not. So why don't I turn it over to the 2 that have? And Zach Veach, you start with your observation that you made watching a run of Marco Andretti and bring Davey in on that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the one thing I noticed about Marco is just he's leaving a good car with the exit of 2 and 4, and I just, you know, part of me sitting here wondering if it's just the speed's not in that car and he's trying to do anything he can by just shortening a bit of the distance around this place to try to get that speed a little bit higher. But, you know, around here, you're trying to use up every bit of the track to reduce that scrub number and just keep that minimum speed up. But I don't know. There's something going on because he's definitely playing with a couple of different lines trying to improve his speed.
Davey?
For sure, one thing is he you know, he has the fastest lap of the 4 at a 229.7, but his last lap by was a 227, right? So he dropped off pretty drastically. And that exit, it is, as Zach said, you want to keep the car as free as you can. But then there was one year, there was a girl that came here named Danica Patrick, and she ran that white line, I think, all the way around this place, and it worked because it shortened the racetrack up. But you have to have, it's a different time right now. These are different cars. The weight's different. And to be able to keep that car on a white line all the way around the corner now and even down the straightaways to make a shorter circle out of it are gone. I think it's back to those days of as free as you can get it now. I will say this is some of the drivers of today, there's that curbing. You know, there's a white line, there's below the white line, there's low concrete, and there's curbing actually on this track that some of the drivers are down on that, trying to shorten the corner up, which it's a bit risky, I'll have to say. Matter of fact, Schwartzman, I'll have to give him a lot of credit. That kid hasn't been here before. It's with a new team that's been struggling. He was right hand down 2 times in this run yesterday. When I say right hand down, that means you're turning to the right, not to the left anymore. And he didn't even think about cracking the throttle. So I seen Briscoe on the way in. I go, and your guy, he's good, obviously, but he's a little brave. You go, I got to work on his race program a little bit, you know. So he knows it's there because you don't know what you don't know. Well, right?
We've said that a million times. We've also said the preference is to have somebody that's bad fast and try to rein him in a little.
Yeah, that's right. And what a great guy to do that, right? I mean, Ryan is a great race driver, and he knows how to do it right. He knows how to do it wrong because he's had some cheat time too, right? So you learn the hard way sometimes.
Some cheat time.
And so you know, I mean, that teaches you real quick.
I will say that white line, you know, there was always a different mentality about that because I remember, you know, especially I feel like our last generation to come out of Indy Lights at the time, now Indy Next, of course. You know, when I was doing my first laps around this place, everyone was saying, you know, stay above the white line. You got to stay there. And, you know, Carlos Munoz and I, you know, Carlos, he did it perfectly. But, you know, we all started running under that white line in these lights cars, and you're hitting that curve because they're a little more forgiving. And, you know, once we got in the big cars here, everyone was still kind of preaching that you got to stay away from it. And we were like, oh, what's the big deal? We're down there all the time in Indy Lights. And then you finally hit that curbing going above 225, and you realize how quickly things can get out of shape around
That's right.
this place.
You're exactly right. So that hasn't cost anybody this week. Nobody's got down there and has lost it, so no blame on that. But it does put yourself in a little more risk.
Absolutely.
And one reason they're doing it is getting that clean air. If you get as slow as you go, try to get a little bit of left front clean air to get that car to turn. That's why they do it, right? Not if you go high, you get the marbles, so and so. But it could cause in race time they do that. It could be some problem.
We'll let each one of you, Zach. We'll let you go first. The position that Rita VK finds himself in of the 4 cars in this session that are battling it out in that last chance shootout. He is the slowest at 225.414. How difficult is the approach mentally for a driver, Zach, when you want to find speed and you simply don't seem to be able to?
Well, you know, Davey said it best earlier. You know, we're celebrating those guys that are in the top 12, and, you know, it is going to be heroic to get the pole around here. But those guys don't have the hardest job today. You know, if you're in that last row shootout, if you're a VK sitting there right now, you just did an attempt. You've done 6 laps, and your fastest has been a 225. You know, you are having a car that's not easy to drive. You're in a situation that's not easy to be in, because instead of being in that top 12 where you're driving from pure confidence, you know you can go out there and get the job done. Unfortunately, in the back of the field, you're kind of driving more out of a state of desperation, because you're trying to figure out why the car is as slow as it is. What can you do to make it go faster? And unfortunately, that answer is usually taking a much bigger risk just to make something happen. And that's a terrible place to be in.
Davey?
Yeah, and I think the same thing. I mean, they're the ones having to do a lot of the work today. Not just them, the crew. I mean, it's a lot of pride to be in this race for a driver. He's the quarterback, so he gets the most attention. But there's team owners, there's sponsors, there's crew guys that put so much work and effort into being in this race. And it's just one guy, right? That almost hurts worse than 2 or 3 guys. It's one guy not making this event. And you know, when I see VK's speed there, I did something a little curious on what was going on. He did 2 really slow laps, you know, like you don't do that. So that wasn't a simmed run. So I don't know if he was just trying something there. Obviously, we found out that he's putting a completely new nose piece on the car. I don't know if that's all he has, or if they have a strategy not getting the car too overheated to come out for his qualifying attempt. But that's not a good place to be. I trust even the fastest guy, what is it, Armstrong? Marco's the fastest right now. He's still not comfortable, because you have to go do it. You know, you have to go out there and you have to lay it down there, and you feel like, hey, I'm the fastest of the 4, but any one thing could happen rapidly, as we've seen with McLaughlin and many others, Colton, and as we talked about, it could happen, because these cars aren't as hooked up as the fast cars.
And Nick, yesterday, if you recall, I mean, Marco Andretti was strapped in the cockpit with a gun went off. But when we talked to him post-qualifying, he was very confident. I mean, at that point, he felt like, he said, we would have been in. We just ran out of time, so we feel good about our chances. He talked about today.
I think his exact quote was, we just got to not do anything dumb. He feels like the pace is there. I mean, he missed it by 4/1000th of a mile per hour. I mean, which is just inches on the racetrack, Davey. But when you know you've got the back of Andretti Global, you know the car's fast, but there's always the element of surprise. Yeah. We've seen a lot of crashes over the last couple days, so even if you're comfortable, as Marco Andretti is, and he like Mark pointed out, not down on himself or on the team yesterday, despite the fact that they're in this last row shootout, you just never know putting it around for 10 miles here.
Well, I promise you, there's one person that's, you know, who slept good last night. The top 12 didn't. These last 4 guys, they didn't. Graham Rahal slept good last night. He slept good for the first time in 3 years.
I think he told us after the interview, he said, I'm going to go grab a beer. Yeah. And he deserved one.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of that, so Jack Harvey, we make the race. He goes, hey, it's not where we want to be, but we're going to celebrate. He brought beer for the whole crew. Don't have the Englishman bring the beer.
Oh, was it bad? Was it warm?
First thing I asked is, well, your refrigerator broke in that motorhome you got out there, or what's up? Yeah, so yeah.
Warm beer?
Oh, yeah. No, we took him. He's off duty.
Well, I got to say, him and I put a few down before, and they've never been warm. Right? So maybe it was an off occurrence.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, it was. Yeah, he needs to get a better refrigerator.
Hey, what's been the most enjoyable part of this last couple weeks?
You know, I think that, it's like going to school, honestly. And so just taking all the information in and learning this part of it again and just trying to, do the best that I possibly can. I think in reality, it's the Speedway, right? So you have an involvement with it. But Dennis Reinbold, not meeting Jack, I've known Jack, but first time to be able to work with him. Such a class guy. Really, I know, Mark, you've known Jack a long time, always really respected him. And he has that respect for a reason. He's a really good guy. And if I had a full-time team, I wouldn't be scared to put him in at all. So
the one thing, Jack, him and I, we grew up, around the same time, but we didn't really get to race with each other until Indy Lights.
Yeah.
We really came close. We were battling for wins, him, Gabby Chavez, and myself in 2014. But, Jack and I always stayed close. But one thing that is true to his character that will always put him higher than others to me for the rest of my life is at the end of 2020, when there was a big life change for me, and I was, kind of getting away from IndyCar for a little bit, Jack went out and he got a book that when he was going through a hard time, he read it, it helped him, and he gave me a letter. So he gave me the book and the letter, and he was like, mate, I just really wanted to give this to you. It helped me. I think it might help you. And, it's something you don't have to do.
Yeah,
especially to a competitor. And, I think that just put in my eyes the type of person that he is. And he worked so hard to be here, and he really deserves it.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm learning a lot from him, too, because then it's back to the same thing. What I do up here from doing strategies, from knowing these cars, I think it's taught me a lot. There's things I didn't know, honestly, that they do now that they weren't doing back when I was running. There's no question about it. So I think that every time something like it happens, like, oh, I got another gun for the bullet, right? Honestly, but then I learned that much more about it. So, but being with Jack and that team, especially, because it's comfortable. You fit right in. It's not like going on a date with somebody you don't know. It was comfortable.
Well, and I think the guy that you'll be first to give all the credit to, both of you, because you both know him, I don't think you can second guess the success that he's had not only here as an owner, but as a business owner, certainly in Central Indiana, and that's Dennis Ryan.
And so been fortunate enough to drive for Dennis, long-term relationship, as you guys know, and such an honest guy. Anything that he ever told me that he's going to do business-wise and as a driver for him, he did it.
Well, that's commonplace in racing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There's a few things, a few stories I can tell you. There's a few sweet.
You've told me some.
There. I learned that too, behind the scenes stuff. That's not so sporty too. That's for sure. A lot of craziness going on there, but you're right. He's been well respected. You know that Dreyer, Reinbold, Pop's.
Pop, yeah.
Pop Dreyer. This is their 100th year.
Yeah, that's right.
They've had something going on here. That blows me away that between Pop and Dennis, they've been here 100 years this year.
That's wild. If you remember when he landed in the series, he thought, boy, this is easy because he won his very first race.
Yeah, when you show up to Disney World at your first IndyCar race and you win it, right off the bat, that he tells that story all the time. He goes, well, this ain't that hard.
Yeah,
it's pretty easy.
I saw Robbie Buell yesterday. He was here at the racetrack, and I think he's gonna get a chance to join us in Detroit.
Yeah, perfect, and that's great. And he's part of the deal. He's not part of the team, but he's good friends. He's down in our garage all the time. Robbie's another great guy.
Another guy that drove for Brian Reinbold is Allenser Jr.
One of the true legends here at the Speedway, two-time winner of the 500, Al Unser Jr., joining us here in Gasoline Alley. And Al, first off, great to have you back here at the Speedway.
You betcha. Thank you. I want to say hi to Davey up there in the booth.
Tell him hello, yeah.
He's trying to get me on the radio for a few days now. So.
Well, he says hello back. I mean, of course, we think so much about your statement in Victory Lane in '92 about just don't know what Indy means. What does Indy mean to you when you come in here on a day like today, knowing the history not only for you but for your family?
It's really great. I mean, what can I say? It means everything to me as a childhood dream of mine that I had to compete here, and then to have the success we had was another dream come true, and then to come back and on a beautiful day like this and be a part of it all. It's super good.
Of course, we go back to 1983 with Gallus Racing, your rookie year here. I mean, just take us back to that when you took your rookie test and talking about that dream with your uncle and your father and the success they had, and just to be able to follow literally in their tire tracks.
Yeah, well, my rookie year, every day was a new day, and so it was fresh. It was all that kind of stuff, and then Unfortunately, first weekend of qualifying got rained out, so it moved to the second weekend, and so it was one of those years that that every day was a new day, and yeah, it was just a great period of time.
And then you extend that to 1992, the duel with Scott Goodyear, and really just the improbable nature of that with the domination of Michael Andretti. And, of course, the conditions today much different from what it was on that day.
Oh, for sure. You know, the 92 race, it was super cold. And as a matter of fact, I don't think they'd even run with the way the rules are right now, because it was like 42 degrees, and it was just way cold, and you just had to be super careful. And then you know, Scott and I had a great race going on, but it was for second until Michael broke.
And, I mean, of course, there's so many good days here, but maybe one's not so good. We're getting ready. We got the last row shootout practice going on right now, and you think back to 1995, the struggles for Team Penske, you and Emerson being the last two winners of the 500, and maybe talk a little bit about the mentality from 94 to 95, from going from winning the pole to fighting to make the race.
Yeah, those were not good times and not good days in 95, but you know, it was honestly the most adversity I had ever faced, and the team, for that matter, that they had faced, and so, you know, this place will get into your head, and that's a perfect example of what happened. We couldn't think straight because, you know, of all the stress of barely being quick enough to make the show. With that doubt in your mind, it just takes over, and that's what happened in 95. Yeah.
And lastly, of course, looking to happier times. Great to see, of course, here at the Speedway. What are you up to now?
Oh, we're just living day by day and enjoying the retirement, and we do stuff with Vintage Indy, which is a registry that old Indy cars or go to the different racetracks. We'll be at St. Louis. We'll be at Road America. We'll be at Nashville, where the car owners, and most of them are the drivers and car owners, they go out there and it's exhibition only. They don't race by any means, but they're all runners, and so I go out there and I drive their pace car is what I do.
Well, that's outstanding. How great is that for you with your history and appreciation of the history of this sport to be close to that with Vintage Indy?
Yeah, it's a dream come true for me. It's nice and easy, no stress and that kind of thing, and I get to go to the races, and so yeah, it's all good.
Well, Al, on behalf of everybody listening and everybody here on the crew, it's great to see you happy, healthy, and most importantly, where you belong here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
You got it. Thanks so much, and have a great day.
That's Al Unser Jr. Now let's go to the pits and Drake York.
Rinus VeeKay came in just a few moments ago in that Ask ROI Honda for Dale Coyne Racing. Adjustments on both the front and rear of that race car. They put in a few turns on the front wing, so pretty big adjustments there, and they've had the engine cowling off for quite some time too, working mostly behind on those dampers. They've had wrenches, they've had all sorts of stuff behind that hybrid unit on the 18 car. They're now just putting the cowling on right now, and I talked to Renaud Lepore this morning, the crew chief on the 18 car for Rinus VeeKay. He said Rinus was pretty happy with the balance, but seeing all the swings they're taking at the race car right now, they're clearly trying to find some more speed and more comfort for VeeKay.
Well, the beauty of, I guess, not the beauty of it, but I guess from a team standpoint, I mean, that's where you're at, though. I know you don't want to be finding that proverbial needle in the haystack, but at this point, you might as well try everything.
Well, it makes sense, too. You know, Davey was saying earlier that they went out and did a couple of slow laps. I'm sure with them putting on a new front wing, they just wanted to do a COP check, which we say COP, center of pressure. That's basically, if you think about the race car in front of you, if you move a needle, you know, to the nose or to the rear of the car and say that's where the center of pressure is, that's where, like, the center of the downforce of grip is. So if that needle's all the way forward, you have a very high COP, we like to call it, towards the front of the car, that means that front wing's really turned up, and there's a lot of grip on the front of the car. The bad side of that is if all your grip's up front, the rear of the car is not going to have a lot of grip, and it's going to be unstable. So anytime we're changing something big like a front wing, we want to go out there and see what that COP is, because we have a magic number where the car likes to live that's safe, that you're not going to really be risking it with. drive around the racetrack.
Let's hear from Rob Edwards.
Down here in the 98 pit, there's no car, there's no driver. And the fastest of the non-qualified drivers is Marco Andretti at over 229 miles an hour. Rob Edwards is the Chief Operating Officer for Andretti Global. And I have to think that means you're pretty happy with where Marco stands in this last chance qualifying.
Well, I'm hoping I'll be happy at the end of the day, right? That's the object of the exercise. But yeah, I mean, we made a decision that we weren't going to like stay out here and do multiple runs. It's a lot about, right, putting all the pieces together, and sometimes that's better done by back in the garage and looking at the information you've got from the run we've done. So that's the plan, and yeah, hoping I'll be happy come the end of the day.
We don't want any Andretti drama on this day, do we?
We definitely do not, no. You know, we had enough drama yesterday, I think, on the team that we're hoping today can be as trouble-free as possible.
On the other side, Marcus Ericsson in the run for the Fast 12 and the Indianapolis 500 pole. What kind of a shot do you give him? Do you have the speed to compete with the Penske's and Ganassis today?
It'd be interesting, right? It's a different day. You know, I think, you know, obviously that was the car that carried us yesterday. We've got, you know, some additional brain power on the group today working on it. You know, there's some really tough competitors, right? Some really quick cars there, but I'm hopeful that we can move forward, and depending on how the draw and how things work out, we'll find out just how much we can move forward.
And Rob, what a story with Colton Herta yesterday after the accident, getting the car repaired and getting him in the race. Just overall, how things went for Andretti Global and how you stand for the Indy 500.
I think we've got good race cars, and I think if yesterday showed anything, right, it's about, you know, up and down pit lane is the bond and the trust between the drivers and their teams. And, you know, both the awesome job that the whole team across the whole garage did to get the car back out there, but then the trust and the confidence of Colton and the driver getting in and just fully committing to going straight into a qualifying run. You know, on many levels, yesterday was disappointing, but if we're looking for a highlight, that's definitely a highlight.
Thank you, Rob. Rob Edwards, the Chief Operating Officer for Andretti Global. They'll have one car in the last chance qualifying with Marco Andretti and one car in the Fast 12 going for the pole with Marcus Ericsson.
And Davey, certainly feel for Marcus Armstrong and also for Colton Herta, but at the end of the day, two really good stories yesterday that they were even able to get back on.
Yeah, no question about it. And as he talked about, there was enough drama in that team already. They don't want any more with Marco, and I don't think they'll get any. I think he'll get in the show. Okay, never know. You got, like I said, you got to continue. It's like Rob just said. There's no confidence there until it's over with, you know, and because you never know what could happen. But I feel that they have a lot of data that he just talked about that they can go look at what Marco just ran, look at ride heights, look at, you know, what's going on with that car compared to some of the other cars.
Well, Zach Veach, whatever changes they've made to the car of Rinus VeeKay appears to have at least, knock wood, paid off for them, because he's now slipped in front of his teammate, Jacob Abel at 227.970, Rinus VeeKay at 228.771.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that's probably a bit of a relief for him, but it's still, as a driver, you're sitting there and it's not good enough. You're hoping to see that number at that 230 mark, at least get you ahead of Andretti and Armstrong, so you know you're well safe into that 33. But any progress forward is probably a relief for VeeKay too. So 2 laps, 228 here, so it's consistent. I want to know how these next two go, because I feel like that's what's going to be the separator, especially when you have a car that's not to your liking. The big deficit is how quickly it goes through the tires. So if you can put that big lap up on lap 1 and 2 and still have a monstrous drop-off lap 3 and 4, it might not be good enough to make the show.
And Davey, you said earlier you feel like that one of the things that you've learned throughout the course of the week is that the DAG on these Firestones more than hold up over a 4-lap.
Yeah, if you look at a lot of the times, I know hybrid has a little bit to do with that last lap, but just a good look at that third lap. A lot of times that third lap is almost the same as the first and second. They're very, very consistent. And the only reason the fourth lap is a little bit quicker, not because the tires got better by any stretch, but you got that little boost of the hybrid that's helping them, you know, kick that last lap.
Did we see, Zach, those holding up in addition to those 4 laps plus that out lap, that pace lap, if you will?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, we look, VeeKay, he's getting ready to pull off now. He's slowed down, but, you know, that last lap for him was 228.5. So it looks like he did 3, possibly 4 laps there, all in the 228s, which is what he wants. Now the stress is on Jacob Abel. It looks like his fastest lap so far has just been a 227.9, so about a mile an hour difference between 34th and 33rd.
Going to be in a situation again, Nick Yeoman, where a teammate's going to bump a teammate?
It certainly feels that way. I know a lot of people initially when the week started circled Prema as that being a possibility. They did everything but that yesterday, qualifying, showing that they were no threat to get bumped. Then I think a lot of people wondered if it would be Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan racing once again. And now, very clearly, based on the speeds in qualifying yesterday and what we're seeing in this morning warm-up session, it definitely looks like it's going to be between the Dale Coyne Racing drivers, barring anything drastic happening with wall contact. Marco Andretti, 229.781. You heard from Rob Edwards. They're very happy and content. He only turned 7 laps. And then tip the cap to Marcus Armstrong. He wasn't very fast when he went back out with that pieced-together race car yesterday, but now that they've gotten that thing buttoned up, had a night to work on the setup and obviously re-decal it, he's been strong in this morning warm-up session as well, almost matching Marco with a similar 229.776. So that's almost a full mile per hour faster than what we've seen for VK, 2 miles per hour faster than what we've seen from Jacob Abel. So again, a lot in the air, but Zach, it definitely feels like the way things are shaping up right now, not going to be a great afternoon for Dale Coyne Racing.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a tough spot to be in. I think, Armstrong might be the strongest of this group because if you think about it, he really didn't have these problems before the accident. So every time they've gone out since that car was put back together, it's been recovery mode. So they've been getting a little faster, a little stronger. They're getting back to that form that they had all week long. So I'd expect him to take another step forward because, they probably checked some more boxes this morning. But, Marco, VK, Abel, all of those guys, unfortunately, have not had the week that they've wanted to. So I think the stress is going to be especially high on them because I think Armstrong's just had a responsible reason that, okay, the car is going to continue to get better. I doubt it's going to get better for this afternoon.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, practice throughout the course of the week, that 66 car was in the top 15 almost every single day. So knowing that, even though it's a new car, it's a backup car, wasn't the one that he practiced with all week. I think, Mark, there's probably, as Zach points out, some reason for them to be confident that once they have a car put together and have an opportunity to get out there, that they're going to be pretty strong.
And, it stands to reason, Davey, with the success that they've had throughout the course of the week, that when people get that lineup in their paper tomorrow online or whatever, they're going to look at Marcus Armstrong's speed in the last row and say, hey, why is he not in row 6 or 7?
Yeah, that's right. We see that a lot. Back when there was 4 days of qualifying, we really seen a lot of that, right? You see the guys down, halfway through the field with Ari Leindyke.
That record he did not start P1 with that.
That's right. Did not start with that record. That's right. So you're going to see that. And by the way, you look at VK, he's 10th in the points championship, guys.
That's right.
You know what I mean? He's had a really good year with that team. He had, I think, an 8th place finish, a 9th place maybe, or definitely a couple top 10s. He's been really getting the most out of that Coyne car. He's been impressive up to this point. We're thinking, man, what a good job VK's doing, that Coyne team. And now here it looks like we just talked about one of the Coyne cars aren't going to make it.
That's the thing that's so hard to kind of explain sometimes, isn't it, Davey, though? That you can come here, and when it's just not right, there's so little that you can do sometimes. Because, you've seen it with Penske. Andretti's had trouble making the show before. There's just times that you show up, and for whatever reason, there's just little you can do to change the course of the ship.
Well, of all time, you said that, we just interviewed Al Jr. from Emerson won in 1 year, and then Al won in 1 year before it, and then they changed the rules of Mercedes engine they had. And then they had the same car but changed the engine program and come here and miss that race completely in 1995. What a shocker, right? It just goes to tell you, those Mercedes engines, they were hitting 250 miles an hour down in the straightaways, right? Now, I personally love it. I'm the guy. I want 1,000 horsepower to take away all this ridiculous downforce and make these drivers drive the car, make them lift, make them get back on, and make them fishtail, make them drive. Right now it's too many things like you're just wide open and you're at mercy of the car. When they break loose, they're just done.
Yeah,
right?
Well, I will say this, and I know you'll agree with it and love it. Till this day, the most violent thing I've ever driven is a winged 410 sprint car.
I remember when you were doing it.
You get out of an Indy car and you're like, well, it was really smooth. Yes, I was going 240 miles an hour, but it was smooth. It was kind of quiet. You get out of a sprint car and you're like, dude, I don't know what I just drove.
That's right, right? And that's back to, I think, really good competition and passing and wearing tires out and making, I think, the race better. But it's probably never going to go back to that, Zach. You know what I mean? But I really feel like that a lot of these drivers would go, we're out. We're not going to. we're not going to have all that horsepower. We're not going to have to lift and get back on the gas. So
let's hear from Jacob Abel.
Well, Jacob, nothing like a little stress and drama for your rookie experience in Indianapolis, huh?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of unexpected for sure. We were, feeling really, really good all week. Felt good with the balance of the car. We were very conservative with things, but we knew we had the pace when we needed to trim out, and I don't know what happened, but just something happened overnight from Friday to Saturday, and we just kind of mysteriously lost like 3 or 4 miles an hour. So, yeah, it's tough when we really just have no idea where it went. Seems like it just vanished, but yeah, we're going to keep trying our hardest out here. It sucks for sure, but yeah, we're not going to do anything crazy because of taking 7 degrees of rear wing out isn't necessarily going to fix it. And we're already close to the limit there anyways. So yeah, we'll see, but we're going to keep working at it.
So there's still 10 minutes left in practice. Obviously, you're out of the car. I assume you've tried everything you want to try at this point to be ready?
Yeah, to be honest, we have. I mean, it's, there's a couple more changes that we can make, and we think that'll it'll help a little bit, but, then you're sacrificing consistency and grip over the run. So, yeah, it's like I said, it's just weird. It's just super strange, and definitely a tough spot to be in, but we're gonna work hard. We're gonna see what we can do, just try and put everything together, and it's not going to be as fast as we were earlier in the week, unfortunately, but hopefully it'll put us somewhere.
I hate to put it this bluntly, Jacob, but it may come down to you or your teammate as it looks on the speed chart right now. How does that feel?
Yeah, it totally sucks. I mean, I don't need to tell you guys about Renus's resume around here, and we're pretty similar now. We're fighting very similar issues, which is yeah, it's really, really tough. But we're gonna keep working on it and see what we can do. Hopefully something happens in the next 2 hours. We find some mysterious, awesome secret.
Well, thanks for the time, and keep your head up.
Thank you.
Yeah, good stuff from Rich Knight. Davey, is certainly not an issue of him being out of the car, at least not a tire management issue, because they were given 2 extra sets for this practice.
That's right. Everybody's kind of tire heavy right now, I think. So the tire issue won't be an issue. And one thing, Jacob is right. If you recall, I think on Wednesday or Thursday, one of the days in practice, he was 10th fastest in the no-toe. 10th fast. I mean, he was fast. I mean, and that was in the no-toe report. So something happened. And when he says he lost 2 or 3 miles an hour, that's accurate. It showed it. I mean, we've seen it. So they definitely lost speed on that car somehow.
I like one thing they're doing with Armstrong now, because we've done it a few times in the past, especially here at Indianapolis. We talk about heat. The hotter these cars are going to be, the slower they're going to go. Unfortunately, Davey was saying it was taking up to an hour and a half to cool down the hybrid unit. We see Armstrong kind of running around, 130, 140 miles an hour, taking the cool down lane. All he's trying to do is get airflow through this car at a low RPM to just try to cool things down as quickly as he can. So take a few slow laps through here, try to get that fresh air through the radiators without making a lot of heat with the engine. Hopefully that'll be somewhat of an advantage for him.
And he seems pretty comfortable, Davey. He started a lap at 2:29.776.
Yeah, I think he's really comfortable. I think he sees what the coin guys are doing, same with Andretti. And you're right. Right now, I promise you, they got all the radiator shutters completely off, front and rear. Everything's opened up more than likely, trying to cool it down, and he's going to buy, and then that's BK back out there again. And that does absolutely help cool those cars down as he's coming to pit.
And back in the day, there's some too, certain teams were talking about cool down maps that there are. So, you can change the map on the steering wheel. So one of those selections might be one where it dumps a ton of fuel to the engine. Believe it or not, that actually helps cool it down a bit too.
For those of you that might not be aware of the proceedings, Nick Yeoman, we had the Fast 12 practice session earlier. Not everyone went out. We had 10 of those cars go out. Scott McLaughlin is the fastest at 233.553, but Nick, recap for the folks how that car is a distant memory.
Yeah, that car that was fast is no longer fast, and that's putting it bluntly. Scott McLaughlin had an accident early in the practice session on his 6th lap, spinning out of turn number 2, 180 degrees, almost a complete spin around, hit the left side of the side pod up against the turn 2 wall. Car lifted off the ground, came back down, and really almost cartwheeled in a sense, dented and busted up the racetrack at the exit of turn number 2. That car completely destroyed. We heard from Kyle Moyer, who said there is just simply not enough time for Team Penske to prepare a backup car for Scott McLaughlin to go out. So Mark, the defending pole winner of this race, all indications are he is going to start 12th. It'll be an 11-car shootout. coming up at 4:05 Eastern Time. Of course, you can hear it all on IndyCar Radio. All 11 cars, I guess I should say, should go out for one qualifying attempt. Fast 6 will go later in the afternoon after we decide the last chance qualifying. But, of course, that, again, marked the big story of the day. Scott McLaughlin, pole sitter from a year ago, absolutely destroyed his Pennzoil Chevrolet in a Turn 2 accident in practice today.
Alex Wolf and Jake Query will be out making the calls on the course like they were yesterday. So Dixon was second fastest, by the way, at 2:33.240. Paddle Award, 232.792. Felix Rosenquist at 232.734. Alex Pillow, 232.235. Christian Lundgaard, 232.017. Joseph Newgarden, 231.839. Will Power at 231.714. David Malukas at 231.636, and Takuma Sato at 229.978. That last chance shootout, Nick, give us the roster there and what their speeds have been in this session.
Yeah, and also just point out quickly, Mark, 2 drivers from that Fast 12, Marcus Ericsson, Robert Schwartzman, they did not come out for practice, so they did not turn a lap. But, of course, it is the last chance qualifying showdown. Marco Andretti, Marcus Armstrong, Rinus VeeKay, and Jacob Abel will battle it out, 4 of them for 3 spots. The final 3 spots in the Indianapolis 500 in this last practice session. Marco Andretti and Marcus Armstrong, almost identical laps at 229.781 for Marco, a 776 for Marcus Armstrong. They're both about a full mile per hour faster than Rinus VeeKay right now, who continues to turn laps around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He is in turn 3 right now. In fact, he's been busy. This is the 27th lap that he's turned in this practice session. But again, about 8/10, almost a full mile per hour slower than both Andretti and Armstrong at 228.988. And then, of course, you heard from Jacob Abel moments ago with Rich Nye, who is certainly confused as to where the speed went in car 51. He's a full mile per hour slower than VeeKay, 2 miles per hour slower than Andretti and Armstrong. Abel right now, Mark, he's turned 15 laps as we're closing in on the checkered flag of this session here about 4 minutes from now. Abel has only been able to turn a fast lap of 227.970 miles per hour. So going to be interesting. Of course, that last chance qualifying session is a full hour. The run for the pole in both rounds, everybody gets one shot. In terms of the last chance qualifying, drivers will have multiple opportunities to go out in that full hour session, and I would expect guys like Jacob Abel, Rinus VeeKay, they may be making multiple attempts later this afternoon.
The mindset, Zach, of knowing on Saturday you have multiple attempts, but like those guys in that Fast 12 shootout, you get one shot at it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got to be perfect from the get-go there. I find it odd that 2 of the cars that didn't go out, we had Ericsson, obviously, and, the newcomer with Prima. The rookie has been so quick, but they chose not to practice. With that one shot, I know we want to keep these things cool because the cooler the race car is, the faster it's going to go. I think I might have wanted to turn at least a couple of laps this morning just to know what we have in the package. Unfortunately, with Scott having that big crash, that's the last thing that you want to do. So, those guys, at least at the worst, they're going to start as 11th with him taking the 12th spot. But with that one shot, that one bullet in the chamber, I think I would have wanted to know what I had this morning.
What's your opinion, Mr. Race Strategist?
Well, I do. As a driver, I'd want some, but I think the situation is they're more worried about Marco Andretti than they are Ericsson. So I think that team is really focused on Marco and not having any more issues with that team after Colton had his accident. They've had some issues. They don't have Marco in the race yet. So I think they're just saying, hey, we'll take 12. We'll just go out and gamble.
Drake York is standing by with George Klotz.
Of course, he is the strategist on the 66 of Marcus Armstrong's car. You're currently second out of the 4. What's the vibe like down here in the Meyer-Shank pit? Are you guys happy after this practice session?
Yeah, fairly happy. I think the track is probably a little bit slicker than we've seen, but I think we're okay looking at it, judging on other people's time. So we're just not going to risk the car. So if we have to, we will. But if we just do what we just did there, I think we'll be okay if everything kind of stays the same.
I got to imagine you're really proud of these 66 guys for pulling this race car pretty much from the other side of the garage to get it ready to go out and qualify just yesterday, and then let alone have it be here today ready to go. How proud of you are your guys of on the 66 car?
Extremely, and it's not just the 66 car. It was a complete team effort. It was from the 06 car to the 60 car, 66. Everyone was all hands on deck on that, and it's an incredible job, and I was very impressed.
That's George Close, strategist on the 60 car. We'll see him in the last row shootout later today.
And, Davey, we got to look at the pit box where Elio Castro-Neves was doing a bit of a debrief of Marcus Armstrong. A little bit of knowledge there being imparted on Marcus.
Yeah, you might as well take it, too. I mean, Marcus took a big hit. They're behind that guy, right? I mean, they want that guy. They want Armstrong to be in. They have faith in him as a long-term driver for that team. So giving him a little extra. And then one thing I think with Schwartzman, about not going out with Schwartzman, I think they're surprised that he's in the top 12, honestly. And then when you see that steering trace in qualifying yesterday, as a team manager, I'd say, let's call it good. Let's just put a little understeer in him and let him just be somewhere in that
Yeah,
top
you know
12.
what? One more time
yeah,
is good.
yeah, because when you're right hand down, I'm telling you, that is, and don't lift. That is it's a brave man right there.
One thing I will say that I've seen consistently, we saw it with Larson when he bottomed out. That's explained there. But the one thing I've seen more this year than others could be that weight. When these guys are losing the rear, they're losing it so quickly and keeping their foot in it because really that's the only thing that you have left to do.
Yeah.
But you're seeing them light those tires up as the car gets backwards. So that's just telling me that it's happening so quick that there's little that you can do. You're trying to do whatever you can to keep it straight, and unfortunately the tools that you have aren't going to get it done.
And one thing I asked about this, years ago, way before my time, they used to have no grass. It was the apron down there, and guys would race down it. Danny Sullivan spin and win. You watch that. He's way down below the white line. They raced down there. And I asked Brian Barnhart at the time. He was running the INDYCAR series. And I go, why did they take that away? And he goes, well, if you remember back in the day, when cars would spin, they'd spin and they'd hit head on. So they had engineers come at the speeds we ran. They changed the track to where when we'd spin, we'd hit left sides, which is much, much safer. You don't have the head-on impact. For years and years, that worked. And so we're talking track records at times. People say, hey, we want more track records. I'm thinking, well, if Brian is accurate, what he told me, which I totally believe him, and it does make sense because you can tell the way the cars are hitting. The faster we go, the faster they're going to spin, and it may get to that situation of where they're hitting almost head-on. Our speeds aren't faster. We haven't broke Ari's record. But the cars are getting close to hitting head-on. It's that weight, that pendulum around, that extra rear weight. I think it spins so fast, it spins around, and they're almost hitting head-on again.
I always loved Mario's analogy of a yo-yo. You spin that yo-yo, and you get the G-forces that extend that string all the way out. That's what happened when these cars break loose. You're just cutting that string on the yo-yo, and it's heading to that wall. And whatever we do to change that rotation, you're exactly right. To make that snap quicker and quicker. Yep, that's
so
why
I think
we're
it's
hitting.
that heavier weight. It just happens so fast. I've been able to have cars that are real balanced around here, and I got on and I saved. You can save them, but not today's environment. That they're gone before you even know it.
And that's the tough thing. I remember when I came here as a rookie with the new car, especially 2018. The drivers that have been racing IndyCar before me, my teammates at the time, they were coming out of the high downforce kit.
Yeah.
Where that car really couldn't
Got
get
about
sideways.
70 wings on it.
Yeah, after the cheese grater front wings that we had. And we showed up at Texas Motor Speedway, and everyone's talking about how uncomfortable the car was. And I was out there just, catching the car and being like, yeah, it's not bad. And it's what you're used to because you have all that downforce the year before. You take it away, and now it's kind of scary because you don't have what you relied on. But if you're a newcomer and you're feeling it for the first time, kind of like the rookie Robert, this is all you know. You're just telling yourself, hey, it's okay. There's nothing to be afraid of here.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what's the planning process looking like for you? When do you start? Have you already started putting together your race?
Yeah, actually, strategy's working. I was working before I came up here. I have the 200 laps marked out, and I'm doing a couple different strategies. We do have some opportunity, depending on cautions, to take advantage of maybe a crazy strategy to try to cycle us to the front. It could lead some laps at one point, but then again, it could catch you out at the end. So we're discussing. We're going through strategies right now to see which is the best. Fuel mileage is the same. I was hoping to get in that 31, 32 lap range last year. I think the longest, an aero car went 34 laps. Well, we can't get that this year. It's just not there. So ideally, full rich, going as hard as you can. It's about 27 laps. So we're playing around with fuel mixtures, talking to Chevrolet. Matter of fact, we have a meeting with Chevrolet this afternoon, and we're already in race mode starting tomorrow. Yeah.
Well, I know your heart's here. There's no doubt about that. And like I said, jokingly, but also we believe it. I mean, we had to find two guys to do your gig, and we found two good ones, as you well know, guys that have had this job before, and Zach Veach and Anders Krohn. And we're supposed to be impartial on race day, but we'll all be pretty happy if we see you in victory lane.
Well, I appreciate that, yeah. I can't wait to be back, and we're in Detroit. Let's put it that way.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, have a good, safe
All
week.
right.
Best of luck to Jack and Ryan and the whole
All
team.
right,
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
That's our driver analyst, Davey Hamilton, serving as the race strategist here at the Indianapolis 500 for Jack Harvey. Want to thank Nick Yeoman and for his contributions during this show. Our outstanding trio of pit reporters, Alex Wolf, Rich Nye, and Drake York. For Zach Beach, this is Mark James. Rejoin us at 4 o'clock Eastern Time as we will finally set the field for the 109th Indianapolis 500-mile race. So long for now from the world's greatest race course, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.